Well, the first blood has been shed in Stage 2 NAL playoffs, and our next match looms large on the horizon. Enter C9 BC, the major champions, facing an uphill climb to defend their title in Montreal. Their first big test is, of course, a sleek, versatile M80 with high hopes of taking another run at international competition. I'm Corbeck, and alongside me here on the desk to help serve up this wonderful feast of siege are, of course, two of the all-time greats, Laxing and Foxa. So happy to be here alongside you guys for yet another best of three. I mean, this one I think promises to be real close.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think you could have said it better. I absolutely agree. I mean, M80 very versatile, all over the place, and then the C9 BC, the previous major winners. I don't think we talk about that enough this stage because of their performance so far. It's been kind of all over the place. And that's what we want to see them get back to, is that consistency, is that strong major winning team, especially now that they've been able to, I guess, hopefully get through all of those issues that being at the top has put in front of them.
Yeah, and the last time we saw these two match up was actually their first game day for C9 Beastcoast, and realistically, that game that we talked about, this should have been a C9 Beastcoast win. It was a 6-8, but fundamentally, Beastcoast looked far better. It's just M80 pulled out that win. So I am expecting a little bit of a get back from C9 Beastcoast going into this game. But even from their last game, what we saw against Dark Zero, where they were down a player, Gav was out of the game due to unfortunate events, and it really came down to Diffuser and Spears that really stepped up that game and just absolutely carried it through.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the former Manchester major winners is something that I think we haven't talked about enough here in this stage. As you said, Fox, C9 BC, they are so good across the board. We've just been seeing them pop up. They just delivered that huge loss to Sonics as well in Week 9. Really poised for a good run here in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different side of the coin here that they find themselves compared to their last stage, but it's still the same end goal. Because the funny thing is, if you look at the last stage of what playoffs look like and where they were sitting compared to now, it's entirely different. It's a little bit reverse is the funny part, because where we saw them last stage, they completely had a huge resurgence. They found themselves in playoffs. They were sitting pretty, and then they just had to win one game, and they won it against Dark Zero, then played M80 in the finals, won it there. They already punched their ticket just winning that game against Dark Zero. Now you look at stage 2, now they're sitting here versing M80, where they originally played them at the end, and now they have to beat Dark Zero in order to now punch their ticket to Montreal. So it's kind of a little reverse sweep when you look at that, but I mean, it's still the same goal overall for this team to achieve that spot and fight for their major spot once again.
Yeah, and even if you look at the specific games too, obviously in stage 1, they went 0-3 off the start before they went undefeated. And now in this stage, they looked like that same weak team. They struggled to get wins. They struggled to look like the major winning team, because obviously when you get to the top, everybody's counter-striding you. Everybody's trying to outplay you. But eventually they slowly started picking up their pace, and arguably enough, their best showing was their last showing, where they ended up playing with Merc as a sub. And so it shows that they have the fundamentals to be good regardless of who's in that slot, but now they have their full 5 roster today.
And, you know, the one player I think I've watched consistently through interviews who remains so confident in his team, especially in the idea that they're going to get to playoffs, they've got a big map pool, it's Hot and Cold, right? Has just been so consistently proud of his squad and what he thinks they can do in the playoffs.
Yeah, and you have to talk about Hot and Cold and highlight him here. I mean, these are the games throughout the stage so far. Obviously, you see the 3 losses, but he is performing extremely well still on that IGL role. Obviously, a little taper off from that Sonics game, but again, that really came down to Diffuser Spirits game as a whole. But I want to specifically hone in on Hot and Cold, because now you're getting into best of 3 territory. He is the IGL. He is the sole leader that is going to be setting his team up for success and using his team, his Swiss Army knives, to be able to move around the map. And especially given, you know, their performance, what we've seen so far, their fall off, and Hot and Cold talked about it, you know, teams didn't understand what they would do. They didn't have the idiosyncrasies of what each and every single player did, where that's where they struggled with now, as teams do understand how to adapt, how to play against this team. So which is why I am highlighting Hot and Cold specifically going into this matchup today, is he's going to be leading that forefront of setting his team up in these situations to pull out these rounds, win these rounds. So again, Hot and Cold is going to be the key factor for this team's success to not only push through M80, but then bring in that fight to Dark Zero to try to punch their ticket to Montreal.
And he'll be the biggest key to re-identifying the C9 BC that we know won the major. Obviously, now they've gotten to the point where everybody does know how they play. They know individually how people play. And it's up to Hot and Cold, being the IGL of the team, to be able to position players differently and work with the roster on playing off of each other in a different way. Even if it's just a small difference, any little bit of change adds a different element to C9 BC.
And I think he can absolutely do that just for the sole fact, when you look back at the last stage, they had an identity crisis and they all came together and put that backing on Hot and Cold, which immediately propelled them all the way at the top of the NAL and then propelled them all the way to first in Manchester.
You know, I'll be honest, I find him inspiring. I find his confidence in his team absolutely inspiring, and he's going to need all of that confidence, though, here tonight, because they are going up against an M80 squad that has been deadly, right? They played them in the playoffs last year. They won that match. They're going back to it again. A very different M80, a scary M80 this time around.
Yeah, and what's the one takeaway that we've been talking about since the start of the stage with M80? It's about their versatility. Since picking up Hyper, they've been very flexible. Everybody on the team can play any single operator across the board, and that's the strength to M80. Every single buddy on the team has been able to flex to a different role or a different position and find success. They have a great leadership of cameraman. They have Spoit, who's arguably, everyone calls him the wonder child of the of the league. And he's topping the KD charts, and he's doing it on Ace. You can see across the board they have 3 different hard breaches. Everybody on the roster can show their strength in whatever situation they need. But in the issues that M80 struggles with is the lack of versatility in their maps, and that's the biggest downfall for them, is because their maps, you can see it from stage 1 to stage 2. Chalet and Skyscraper were 2 of their best maps in stage 1. They have not played them yet. And if there's a key theme besides the clubhouse, it's the big maps, Labs and Bank, that have been played in stage 2. They have not found success on these big maps. So obviously it's very simple 1, 2, 3, you know, big map, bad M80, small map, good M80. And it puts them in a position where the big maps, they struggle because they're all too split up. They can all do a little bit of everything, but when you're on a big map that splits everybody too thin, they lack the identity to be able to play off of each other, and that's where they end up struggling and falling short.
I think it speaks into the versatility, though, is that now they do have this roster, this more equipped, well-rounded oil machine that they can try out these maps and see if they work, because like you were saying, they haven't showed those last 2 previous maps due to playing these big maps. So now going into a best of 3, that possibly can allow that to be opened up and have that avenue going forward.
Well, you know, there's only so much we can tell you here on the desk, so we had an opportunity to go a little bit deeper with 2 of the players here, Kino and Diffuser, get an idea of how they felt about the end of the group stage and what they're looking forward to here when their teams meet.
Super weekend at the end of groups was kind of chaotic for M80. We didn't really have a super week because we ended up having our bye right in the middle of it. It was fun. We got some points. We got some losses. It was very mixed ending, but overall, we're proud of how much we learned this group stage, and we're ready for playoffs.
I think it went well. Obviously, we wanted to get that SSG win so we could secure top 2. We didn't, but we got playoffs. We're here, and we're planning on winning. I think we looked best against Sonics, but again, we didn't have Gaveni. Can't really credit any of our group stage wins. We just beat a bunch of janitors. One player who I thought stood out really well in group stage was Spirits. I think he's slept on, and he's a really good player, and he deserves to be praised.
The one person on M80 who's been standing out is none other than Split. I mean, he's just a wonder kid. He's always performing, always putting up the numbers. On our first game against Cloud9 BC, I thought they were very slow and very... I don't think they were ready. It was a very sloppy game from both sides. We were very sloppy, couldn't get the walls open. It was a very bad game from both of us. So I feel like now on playoffs, kind of interesting, you know? Like we have on our team, we have the 1v1 king, and then they have major MVP gunner. Which one's best? I don't know.
I just think we played like... We should have beat them. They're a good team, yeah, but I think we're better. We have better players, better matchup for us. I think we just blatantly trolled that game, and we're not gonna let it happen this time. Their biggest strength is just being blessed in hero plays by Spoit. I think if Citizen isn't doing anything, that it should be an easy 2-0 in playoffs. But I think if Citizen is playing how he does once in a while, then it's gonna be a little bit harder.
I never have any other expectations besides to win. I never go into a game expecting I'm going to lose or expecting the other team is better. I always think I have the upper hand, and that's how I'm going to treat every game by game. We'll get there.
I don't think it would be fair to say my expectations are to win, but I do think it would be fair to say my expectations are to go in confident. And even if we win or lose, be confident, because we're going to make Montreal. It's going to happen, whether it's in the LCQ or if it's through playoffs. Just be confident. That's all my expectations are.
Well, Diffuser giving them credit, saying they're a good team, and then saying that all they do is make hero plays off the back of points. A little mixed messaging there.
I mean, I can appreciate the two different approaches, but especially for Diffuser, being a rookie and the arrogance and confidence that he has, the thing is, he can back it up. He's a major champion winner. He dominates the top of that leaderboard for that team, even just in the last game. So I can really appreciate Diffuser's approach to this.
Yeah, I don't even necessarily think what he said was wrong. I mean, M80 has been backed by a lot of big hero plays, especially on the maps that they played. I mean, that was the biggest thing that I mentioned is when they go to these huge maps and they're spread too thin, they have nothing else to win them those maps besides hero plays. They need that. But obviously, there's a lot that they haven't shown that we've seen them play in stage 1. So it adds a whole element of, will C9BC have enough information on what M80 can bring? Because if it's all about the versatility and a best of 3 where you can flex and have to flex the amount of maps that you can play, there's a lot that M80 just hasn't shown in their last stage.
You know, and as much as we want to or people want to disparage the idea of a hero plays do work. I mean, you have the spoit, they don't.
Sure, it's not something that you want to rely on, but if it's getting you rounds and you're winning the game off of it, who cares at that point? But at the end of the day, yes, you need the teamwork, you need the camaraderie there to, you know, propel you even further. But again, it's not a bad thing if you can have a player that just is in those moments, that is setting himself up for success to ultimately set up the team for success. But still, I mean, M80 does still have strong 5 players. You can't count out anyone on that team. It just so happens that Spoit does take that limelight more often than not. But again, that's not his own fault. That's just, he's just a phenomenal player.
Fox, I hear you I hear you umming about the maps.
I mean, we're talking about big plays, and I feel like that's really the story for Border and, I mean, Clubhouse specifically, just because they are two pretty typical maps that you see. There's nothing too much that you'll be able to come into surprise, but specifically Border, it's such an aggressive, fast-paced, back-and-back brawl of a map that you're going to see a lot of hero plays, whether you like it or not. So this will really be a position to put, you know, Diffuser's money where his mouth is on, you know, oh, they're getting backed out by plays. Well, if they let those big plays run away with them on a map like Border that amplifies big individual plays, then I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's their game to lose because it's their map pick. It's C9BC's map pick. So they just can't let that over-aggression overpower them.
I do like this map from C9 Beastcoast specifically. We did see them how well they played it against Luminosity. So I'm expecting M80 to take something from that game and not allowing C9 to have these avenues of aggression to be able to take top E speed, be able to take break, or even dome for that example. But again, if C9 Beastcoast can walk away with that, we've talked about this plenty throughout the stage, is C9 Beastcoast does a really good job at setting the tempo of the game, and you more so play into their game and how they want you to play. So again, I am really expecting M80 to come into this game and really take from what they watched in that Luminosity matchup and thwart off these attacks right away, so that way they can pivot on their attacks and bring something a little to the table that C9 Beastcoast didn't get to see during that Luminosity game.
I mean, it's something that we sort of touched on as well. There's C9BC is starting on attack. They are remarkably good. The top attacking team in NA on a map like Border, that just screams victory to me.
Yeah, of course, because it's so pivotal on getting those opening kills, especially with how split up the map is. Everybody's kind of in their own 1v1 battle. So it is in C9BC's favor to win those attacks, but in my opinion, I think if there's a map where M80 is going to make a stand, it would be this map, and maybe a little bit of a hot take, but I think M80 has to win this series 2-0. I don't think they win that last map of Labs.
I don't disagree with that, and it's definitely going to be a grudge match going into Clubhouse. But yeah, specifically this map, like I said, for M80, I need to see them adapting quickly and understanding what C9 Beastcoast wants to do. But then for C9 Beastcoast, I want them to keep that pressure that they always have on this map.
Well, our teams are in the lobby and ready to go, so it is my very great pleasure for the second time here tonight to turn you over to two of the best casters around. It's Lynx and Stokes.
And I want to start off just right out the gate, hitting on something that Des talked about. C9BC are major champions. Because I don't think I've actually said that one time in the entirety that I've been casting them, Sam. Because as the desk brought up, it hasn't been a dominant stage like it was after Playday 3 last year. It has been a bit more of a work in progress.
Yeah, 100%. Cloud9 has kind of had a little bit of a back and forth, kind of a, you know, also on top of that, just to build from that as well, right? Kind of a changing of the tides as well with them, having some other things come in, Fett not being the coach anymore, new coaches implemented, just a lot of things happening on the inner workings of Cloud9, and it was kind of on full display during this stage, as all of you have pointed at. And I think that that's the main thing that we're kind of, you know, trying to harp on, because we really want to see them bring all of this together and bring it to light here inside of playoffs. I mean, you heard Diffuser himself. He feels as though it is Montreal, full stop. So, and in a lot of ways, I do agree with him, but in some others, there's definitely a way for this to fall apart.
There is, and to kind of wrap things up on C9 BC before turning to M80, the first time this org ever qualified for a major, they won it in Manchester. I mean, that is an insane standard to have to live up to, but it starts with qualifying. To see them immediately fall by the wayside for some of the more normal clubs, maybe Sonic's moving up to take their spot or something else, you want to see them stay in the mix. We don't just want to see Dark Zero, SSG, Sonic's M80 like it felt like it was the entirety, well, that it was the entirety of last year. But for M80, as the operator bans have finished, I think, I wouldn't have said it as crassly as Diffuser did, but Sam, I gotta say, I think there is some truth to the allegations. I think a lot of M80 success, not all of it, but a lot of it does really come down to the fact that they've got two of the best players in the world, Spoit and Citizen. One is one of the best entries, and the other's one of the best lurkers.
Yep. It definitely, doesn't present any negatives. That's the key thing, right? And that's kind of hard to find in a game like Siege, where somebody is just that good. So, yeah, I definitely think that has some merit to it. But the thing is that a squad like C9 BC, they are more than capable of taking that away from them. I mean, we saw Gunnar himself. This is still just the craziest thing to me about the Manchester Major win. They just completely bodied BEDS like they were any other team. They did not sit there and quiver in their corner or anything like that and go, oh, Shaco's on the other team. Like, no, they did not care at all. It was truly impressive. So we might have another one of those moments here today. I don't think the bright lights have ever been a major consideration for C9 BC.
Border is kind of a funny map for C9 BC though, because they won this map against BDS 7-5, and then in EWC Open Quals, they lost at 6-8 to a team called Skibbity Goobers. So, it's a record not without its blemishes. But yes, I do agree with your point that it is obviously a very good record for them, a very good map for them. Let's see how M80, starting out on the defense, are able to counter it. On Border, we know the standard fare. We know with Armory side, odds are they're going to start east first. And in this case, well, that's not entirely correct, because it's the other option, CCTV instead. Hot and Cold has removed Cameraman for the equation, and Gunnar, persevering through his teammates Candelas, has weaved his way all the way from east stairs to find Spoit inside of 90. Now he'll go down soon after. But down doing, well, all the heavy lifting there as Hyper and Kino both get active. And the CC push, what gathered a 5v3, has now resulted in C9 Beastcoast wondering what the hell just happened.
You know what's so messed up about this M80 squad? And now that we're bringing up just talented players, right? You got Spoit, you got Citizen. Hyper's just been dusting off his play this stage. And every single time we see him, man, I swear he's getting better and better. And it's really terrifying, Carter. It's really terrifying because Hyper used to be one of those players that if it was Hyper against the world, you might pick Hyper. It's definitely pretty crazy that M80 have gotten another pretty successful, operator, or rather player, in their lineup. Spirits, nice little pick there with the sniper, but I don't assume it's going to go too far, is it? Case is decently arms reach away. Have this player in behind the bomb chassis, one fountain. Oh, it was close, but no cigar. A triple kill for Hyper on that round, and a little help from Kino will get it done.
Pretty clear how that round transpired, began, and ended as well. C9 Beastcoast decided to make a massive early gamble for CCTV that paid off quite well. And then all of a sudden, everyone said, hey, we're all awfully close together inside of CCTV, aren't we? And M80 realized that at the exact same time, evidenced by the C4 flying in, and then Hyper and Kino both eviscerating the remaining player from that CCTV push. So, great initial push by C9 Beastcoast, but perhaps being overzealous with how many people wanted to take control of CCTV, and M80, credit where credit's due, reacted very quickly and correctly to that developing situation.
Well, to the discredit of what Diffuser said earlier, Spoit didn't do anything that round. He just kind of died.
That's true.
So,
or was he the bait that lured them into that C4?
Was he the man that made the space for the play to happen? Discuss in Twitch chat right now. Armchair analyst.
Looking a lot like the MVP now that you think about it that way.
Oh, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Somebody does have to be the guy doing all the ugly stuff, right? No, nobody wants to be the droner. They want to be the dronee.
Because that's Spoit. He's always on like the grunt rolls, right? Never on anything flashy. Never just given UMP ACOG and left to his own devices.
I mean, I wouldn't consider that flashy.
I'd consider UMP ACOG pretty flashy. That's like, in my opinion, that's like that's the fragger gun now. It's got a low fire rate. But...
slapping a cog on a turd and just being like, look, prosperous. Like, no, man. Like,
I don't care. One-shot headshot. Get a grip.
Fair enough, but the I mean, you know, that's all I'm saying.
Also,
that's all I'm saying.
One thing I'm excited about playoffs and also just being deeper in the stage, we're seeing teams start to bring Scopos a little bit more, and at least personally, I've not seen her on border so far, so I'm excited to see her. If I have, I don't remember. I'm excited to see what Hyper decides to do. We're starting to really settle, I feel, on the style of play where you got one inside of the site, one off the site. You initially start maybe like off the site and then go back later on. We'll see if it even matters here, though, because... all right. So... Hot and Cold is somehow entering flow state again. I'm getting cafe flashbacks at the moment. Thank God the site is not Armory, because otherwise he would be right in it with the best of them. In a very awkward situation, but Beastcoast coming away the victors.
I lost the capability of speech there for a moment. That is, the timing right now for these two squads is absolutely ludicrous.
Lord Gibbon.
Yeah, yes it does. I'm telling you, Carter, I'm telling you, man, what is happening in round two? Every single angle that could potentially be exploited, somebody's there at the very turn of the tide.
And quiet. That's the big takeaway. Thank God the chaos is over. Now we can chill for the next minute or so. Exactly. 2v3. Got a ghost in the shell on the top floor. Scopos could always shift positions later on, but it is C9BC with the advantage. And what a hell of a few operators you've got remaining. All of Sens' light screens right there. ROU scanners intact. 2 Candelas also on side, and a final EE1D charge. To reinforce this man advantage, quite a compelling operator and utility lineup, but that EE1D goes out, and unfortunately it doesn't find anything. So all that's remaining are those Candelas and the screens for Gunner to throw down. Hyper taking a very long line of sight onto the bottom of East Stairs, and this might be what C9BC are undone by. They're slowly moving forward, but the time is running out to drone. The time is running out to gather this intel, and yet they make good use of it. With still 5 remaining, you'd hope they would, but better teams have made worse mistakes, but not so. C9BC recognize that position, push forth with the diffuser. Gabini cuts down Hyper in the very position we just saw. And as Kino tries his best to create a rotate, this round is pretty much already gone. One just around the corner, the long angle fight goes first, and the last for Kino to take. C9BC answer M80s with one of their own.
Well, that was terribly chaotic for about a minute and a half there.
And then a really normal ending.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to get to. You know, you hit that little lull, and then things eventually finding their way, finding their natural course through that bomb site. Get that plant down, get the big pickups there over near customs, and life is all of a sudden easy. But it was a treacherous road to get there, Carter.
I actually just noticed that cameraman was blind there. That makes it funnier.
that somehow does make it funnier. I do agree.
Drop down the hatch and you just die. Like, okay. Sounds good.
Some guy just chilling in server. He's probably just so confused as well. I mean, you can see the perplexing look just in Hot and Cold's like body language in that moment, right? He's just like, what do I do with my hands? I don't.
the second time, by the way. I want to be right on this so bad. I think it's the second time that in a C9 Beastcoast game, an Amaru has, in this case, almost gone up a hatch and switched places with a Cade. Because I think it happened on the Cafe game too, and I think it was a Cade as well.
Yeah, you don't have to think. It most definitely did happen, because I remember that moment vividly.
I know it happened, I just don't remember the operator.
I'm pretty sure it was Kaid. I'm pretty sure you hit the nail on the head, bud.
I'd recognize that, listen, that tan suit and that suave figure. I'd recognize that man anywhere.
It's a mustache for me, I'll be honest.
Oh, it's a whole lot more than that for me, I'll be honest.
Okay, all right.
Listen. Shout out.
I'm keeping you away from Milos specifically. I don't know if you're allowed.
I'll start barking. Get ready. Ventilation Workshop, next defense coming up from M80. It's been very good control established by Beastcoast early on every single time. 2 times in a row it's been hot and cold on to Cameraman, and 2 times it's been a 5v3 for Beastcoast. Now, round 1 went against them because it quickly collapsed in front of them, but you can't deny that Beastcoast have been incredibly effective on the early game, on the entry so far, and if they meet similar success here, Kino and Spoit, 2 players in particular that could find themselves facing a lot of pressure momentarily, they'll have been set up in a winning position 3 rounds in a row.
Bring the Nomad in, Ace as well. Really the only hard breach we need. This is border, so don't need too much. Just something to get something like the box wall open. That's exactly what we'll go for here. Gunnar will be occupying this space as he is the one piloting Ace at the current moment. And M80 still awaiting the arrival of C9 BC in a more grand fashion. They've just gotten these walls open and gotten control of security, looking to see if they can potentially exploit a few of these rotations from M80 on the top floor.
See if it works out. A little bit slower affair. Hot and cold, the first one to go down. Involved in every duel so far. Just unfortunate on the wrong side of the pain train this go around. A lot more discomfort for Cloud9 at the moment. They've been outside this armory balcony for what feels like 2 minutes now. Definitely the entirety of the round since they've been up here. Spoit just cuts down Diffuser the moment that nade leaves his hand. Talk about a round from the Wonder Kid. Entirely his efforts shutting this down. He spots another and through the wall. Traces him. I mean, what do you even do at this point? Just 1 secondary. Gunner's found his way into the site. That's cool, I guess, but so much has already gone awry. There's vertical angles as well, aplenty, and a hatch to rotate back. So getting a sneaky plant is completely out of the question. Just hoping that one M80 defender will retreat.
No, Spoit.
Well, not today, unfortunately.
Is he the 3rd patient with Neuralink? Like, what is happening right now? What is going on? It's all up to Spirits. He ARXs down 1. Citizen gets absolutely dusted, but M80 across the board. And, I mean, I'll give you this one, Diffuser.
Across the board?
It was Spoit. It was Spoit.
Look at him laughing.
Dude, laughing straight to the bank.
He's chuckling. Like, what do you even need to do after that? Like, you take 4 1v1s.
He just looked at the camera and gave that little smirk. He's like, tee. Like, come on, man.
He heard me.
Oh.
Face made for content creation. Actually.
Mechanics made for highlight reels. Look at this one right here specifically. Gunnar is waiting, but even he's caught off guard. He's like, oh wait, he's actually swinging me like this? Craziness.
On no planet did I think that Spoit probably just reacted, but on no planet I thought he was getting away with that, and he did. Good work from Spoit. 4K. Now the top fragger after 1 round. The kind of thing you have to deal with sometimes when you're playing Spoit.
What do you do when the hero plays start to win rounds? I mean, come on.
Well, win a major in the case of C9 Beastcoast, but
That's very true. Yeah, throwing stones at glass houses in a way with that one, right?
Of course, there's a lot more that went into that, but definitely the individual prowess on the side of C9 Beastcoast across the board. One of the big strengths they had in their run leading up to and during Manchester. Diffuser, the lowest rated at Manchester, but 2 stages in a row has been the highest rated player online. Gunnar, instead taking the mantle away from him at Manchester. But I gotta say, Gavini, sure he's only 2-2 so far, but Stage 1, Manchester, and Stage 2, he has basically been at like a 1.15 every single time. Consistently the 2nd highest rated player, consistently putting in the work, and Spirits and Hot and Cold also a very good backline. While M80, certainly I think this iteration of the roster one of the strongest, but maybe they're top heavy only because Citizen and Spoit are just that good. C9 BC definitely very well-rounded. Well-rounded set of defenses, by the way, as M80 have gone all 4 bomb sites right off the bat. Just want to make note of that.
Yeah, respect to that, especially for this one right here, because I am not a fan of playing things out on customs. It's really difficult, especially if the offense is able to get control of that top floor. That's why you see 4 bodies up here from M80. The Mira as well, and some reconstructive surgery around this top floor will make things a little bit easier, but it's all so very scary, so tantalizing for the offense to try and take control of. Are they going to try and go direct? They sneak in through jungle. They don't see the other player, though. It's an immediate trade. Case is in whose hands? It's in Diffuser's hands, and he's inside of Customs.
Well, that's very fitting, isn't it? I mean, good reaction from Diffuser right there to get that trade as Chaos unfolds upon the top floor. Diffuser in the uncomfortable position of actually having to plant something. He'll at least hold on for the time being, but the element of surprise is gone, and with the hatch opened up, ooh, he dropped Diffuser as well, so you'll have to rotate around. Now plant closer to the door instead, but he's still wide open to a couple different angles, even through the hatch all the way upstairs. This site is anything but secure, and M80 will send that fact home. Spoit and Citizen both retake the site in full force. So Gunner's got to try and mount something out of nothing. One spot in the single window. That'll be Kino to go down, but Public Enemies number 1 and 2 are inside of the A site. They'll even go to pick up their fallen brother, or sister in this case, as the mirror now brought back to 20 HP. With the boss G, M80 move up 3-1.
It's clean. It's clean so far from M80, man. Especially in this this particular instance right here, the ability to delay out the plant attempt from Beastcoast was a huge portion of that round. I think they made Diffuser get off case like 2 or 3 times there, and then finally all drop the hatches. They take out the planter and practically dust every other C9 player in the vicinity. And now a tactical timeout at 3-1 right now. You know, C9 really not liking how things are going so far here on Border.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had, something to look at in round 1. Say, all right, we had the 5v3. I think we definitely just got too consolidated in CCTV. M80 took advantage of the chaos better than we did, but we still had a really good start, 5-3. Rounds 3 and 4 have been noticeably weaker from Cloud9. I mean, stuck outside of Armory for a minute and a half in round 3, and that round they try to go for the quick play. Diffuser at least gets the initial set of engagements, but the actual solution, I think, at that point for dealing with the vertical, they were betting a lot on winning those fights up top, and when that didn't happen, they didn't have a whole lot to fall back on, and they were always half in, half out. They tried to commit, realized it wasn't going to work, but they never fully reset after this, because Diffuser's trying to find ways to plant, the verticality's too strong, so you just end up basically giving M80 the time to retake and take 1v1s with you as you're just trying to figure out what the hell to do in a site that is not free at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Love the fact that M80 were able to make that delay work from upstairs. That big pickup, especially that tucked position that we saw in Customs, really working out for him, Carter. I think if that pick ends up going the way of C9, we kind of have a different story there, especially with the fact that they'd more than likely have some oversight for those positions that started, bearing fruit from the top floor. But instead, a timeout burnt for C9 BC, a 2-round lead for M80 on this defensive half so far, and looking to close things out here in round 5 and 6.
Ooh, a little bit of quick peek from Spoit, not the Doc. Not the Doc!
What?
Not the Doc spawn peek in round 5.
There's no way.
Diffuser eating his words right now. I wish he did not tempt fate, unfortunately. Because Spoit has promoted himself to Doc and now moved up 7-2. Looking rough, looking rough. Oh, that was Diffuser that died too, man.
Yeah.
Talk about things that have aged poorly. I can't even call this beef watch because I think the beef has been squashed.
Yeah, and it's been squashed by one man and one man only. Now, Hot and Cold will try and bring them back into it. Just for a glimpse there, he saw the head of the player, but oh man, dancing around the shots right now. Not able to line things up in the way that he would really enjoy, but as of now, high ball game in between these two. A drone will discover cameraman up top, but M80 are definitely going to be happy with how this has been going so far.
Yeah, the Grim being the one to take it down. Oh no, we lost Capcan. You're totally fine with that. The Grim and the Ying combo is one of the most lethal in Rainbow Six, I would argue, as an incredibly cold take. So losing half of that, quite powerful when the EDDs on the opposite side persist well into the end of the round, often to the attacking team's detriment. Gunner will probe for a pick over by East Stairs. Still can fall back on those Ying Candelas to make any chaos and take advantage of it. But remember how long they stalled out in a 5v5 2 rounds ago. They're looking to try and recover from that. It's why they took the tactical timeout. Cameraman now very low inside of CCTV, but Cloud9 have failed to actually take any positions there, and Cameraman's now fully recharged.
Hyper's got this Nitro Cell already pre-ripped. was waiting to see if somebody would hop inside a radio window, but no dice just yet. As soon as I say that, though, Gunnar will be in the space, but nothing's going to come of it. A gunfight will.
Hello.
Yeah, big oddity in between these two, but Gunnar will be happy with the results. There's got to be one over near Fountain. It's going to be a gunfight from his teammate that Gavini ends up losing. Cameraman stalwart right now in his positioning. Does not want to give this up. It's a 3 versus 3 with 45 seconds remaining in C9 BC. They're looking for the Archives offense.
Looking for it. Talk about somebody who's had a pretty big glow up. Cameraman doing surprisingly well this stage alongside the rest of his team. Oh, dodges that nade. That's so key. Stimmed back up too, just to be safe. He's been the recipient of that stim pistol 2 times now. Deathmark tracker will go through, but you can't really reach that corner. Look at how much time Cameraman is wasting by just remaining alive. He's allowed Spoit to get into position, be the overwatch he needs. Spirits might trade, but M80 have retaken the momentum solidly. Kino can spot one, hot and cold, and Spirits far too separated. One tagged up, the other just around the corner, but the BP giving intel to M80 when they need it most. Just hold on for dear life, and you'll get round 4 in no time.
Fantastic round from M80. Can we talk about the mechanics from Kino right there? That was disgusting movement right there on curve. Oh my gosh. Felt like he was in the Matrix for a split second, but I digress. M80, extremely well done on the top floor. They needed to try and stand tall in certain positions, and the one that ended up being the most important was obviously Cameraman inside of Fountain. Not only with the big kills, but also with the big time delay that allowed the rest of his team to exploit, C9 to their fullest potential. They're trying to dig him out of that Fountain position. Big kills coming out left and right by Spoit especially, and just C9 BC never really having an opportunity to find a home for that case.
Getting a little scary now for Cloud9 Beastcoast because, Border, obviously a map that historically they've been good on. It's not maybe some would consider their best map, but it's certainly up there in the top.
What was that team you said they lost to?
And listen, okay, a 6-8 to Skibbity Goobers, like, we've all been there, okay? We've all been there, okay? You beat BDS. They beat Talon as well, but, they beat BDS. Hey, Talon were good at that event. Talon did well.
They're all right.
They were... Listen, shout out to Fabian.
That's the only reason I said it. Listen, Fabian always gives everybody grief, so I have to take it upon myself to return the favor. You know what I mean?
And that's fair. But we are reaching a bit of a worrisome point. And also, I think I want to talk about, at this point, something Fox said, which is he thinks the series is only going to be 1-2-0. And I do think that obviously could be true, but I also think when you talk about what M80 have won versus lost, winning a lot of the small maps, losing a lot of the large maps, C9 Beastcoast picked Border. Pretty small map. Going to Clubhouse next. Maybe a bit larger, but certainly more, I suppose, figured out in terms of the broader strategy. You just don't really need that much on Border. A 5-1-half would be detrimental to C9 BC. It seems that M80 have really got a hold on the attacks that Cloud9 did so well against Luminosity.
Yeah, especially with that timeout already burned. Cartier, we are stepping into some bad territory, my friend. That's all I'm saying. Things could end up not turning out too great for C9 BC, but we'll save the pearl clutching for later. Still some opportunity inside of round 6. Potential to try and split this 2-4. Definitely make things a little bit more palatable for them going into this next half. And I don't mind the operator lineup for this one, especially the fact that we have that Yingram that we saw earlier and that Carter touched on. Very effective duo that we've seen implemented quite a few times. M80, a lot of things implemented themselves to try and head it off at the pass. A nitro cell out. It doesn't get out the window, though. 0 damage. No dice over on Gunner's side.
2 times now he's dodged this radio C4. Last round almost to the success of Cloud9. Diffuser down. Somebody's been having a rough game so far. Kino hops out the window to try to duel Spirits. Instead, it's the Ying that comes away the victor. Cloud9 with a much-needed advantage that's only widened further. 3 rounds in a row, M80 have had a stranglehold on these opening picks, and now it's all on Citizen, which I've had worse players to watch try to work a 1vx. You can certainly hear one. Moving around the passport position, shot through the barricade a little bit. Seems to be Gavini, and on 40 HP as well. Citizen could find a 1v1 right here, and one that he would likely win. Especially as the odds he's been red here are quite small. There's still time to drone. 30 seconds remaining. So Gavini, will you dot your I's? Oh, he does not.
Oh?
Oh,
No way.
and he does! A voice creeps in his head. Check the corner, and he gets the kill as a result. Only a 4-2 half, but a round that was potentially make or break for Cloud9 Beastcoast, depending on how much M80 have left in the tank.
And Customs was speaking to him like the Green Goblin mask, dude. He was just like, we got to look in the corner. He could be anywhere. Unfortunately enough for him, he does that indeed. Now it's a 4-2 half here. We're getting a tech timeout. What are we doing here? Hold on. I'm waiting on the slider. Tell me what's happening for me. It's a technical pause.
M80 have decided at 4-2. It's just not going our way. We gotta get it figured out.
That's what I was saying. I didn't want to just immediately pigeonhole it and be like, oh, it's got to be a technical pause. There's no way. Because, what if the off chance of M80 actually pulling the tech time out here? But yeah, it'd be a huge, huge oddity if that happened, and you and I would more than likely both clown them a little bit for it. Maybe just a tad bit, but obviously a tech pause here. Little side switch as well. How are you feeling about M80 coming into this offensive side? Those defenses were absolutely nasty, and we got some of the Spoiled show.
We did get some of the Spoiled show. I'm quite pleased to see that. And aside from Spoiled being 8-2, it's really overall the team has been putting in the effort. I think everybody is all hovering around 2 to 4 kills apiece, and I think Cameraman's probably the last one. So Kino, Hyper, Citizen all putting in some decent work. It's a team effort so far for M80. Spoiled might be the one leading the way, but it's certainly not just been the Spoiled show. As a Cloud9 Beastcoast swap sides, I want to see somebody pop off, because Spirits, I do agree with Diffuser. I think Spirits has been undervalued for far too long. A key piece of the old XSET roster. Just want to get that out there. 2 years old, but I believed it at the time, and I think that needed to be said, and I say it every now and then. But Spirits is the one leading the way. 6-3 right now. Gavini being consistent, but Gunner, Diffuser, the players that make entire tournaments for Cloud9 Beastcoast are the ones struggling at the moment. And overall, that aside, even the attacks overall seem to struggle to get things going, figure out exactly where they wanted to take, and even when they did, M80 been performing well enough individually to cause some disruption. So, had a brief break. You've already taken your timeout, so no more pauses after this. Gotta hit the ground running on these defenses.
Gavini warming up the fingers here. Got one of the oldest Pro League skins known to man on right now. You were 2 years old when that skin came out, Carter.
What skin? Sorry?
The skin that's on the MP5 right now.
Yeah,
I think it's called Gold Stripe or something like that.
Yeah.
Gold Dust. Yeah. These would be the skins that I sold so that I could get Glacier, because young 18-year-old Sam was like, they'll make a better gun bundle. No way this is the best one. And then I was wrong. So I will never have R4C Glacier in my life because of that. But that's okay. That's all right. C9BC will be happy with those things, though. They got that C9 money, baby. And they got a pretty nice round in front of them, too. I like the strategy they were going for here, especially on this top floor. Gunner's going to get a little aggressive down near vents. And as of right now, so far, so good. Just a little poke over towards the Deimos, but they'll know that as of right now, the basement more than likely cleared out. And Hyper, he's going to miss a big moment here inside of Archives that he's surely going to want back.
And definitely it should go with saying, I suppose, or it's important to note, oh, not again. Oh, not again. Hot and cold. Somebody taking this fight.
No
Firebolt
way.
into the corner. Well,
Sir?
He's killed Hyper, and he's got no way. Oh, he gets traded out at the last second, but that is insane that Hot and Cold gets a kill there. Spoit tries to rappel into the sandwich window, and, well, he's wishing he hopped right back out instead of committing to that fight. Kino, well, takes my advice and makes it clear that the point is moot either way. Citizen will try to recover in the 1v3. He's revealed his position on top metal, and that's all she wrote. Not a lead or a tie game yet, but Cloud9 effectively repel the storm on Armory and Archives.
What an awkward moment to call for that there from M80. They're so aggressive when they don't really have any opener on the site just yet. Specifically, I don't know if Spoit just accidentally hit his jump button or whatever, but he flew in sandwich window on what seemed just such an odd time. Hot and cold with that big pick there, and yeah, it's an obvious trade here, but C9BC had so many cooks upstairs, man, and they ended up cooking up M80 at every corner.
cooking them very effectively. Definitely big individual performance overall from just C9 Beastcoast more broadly. Everyone at least getting in a bit on the action, whether supporting, not necessarily getting a kill, or just playing an important role, or getting a kill itself. So you're not going to complain about that start at all. But something I was about to say before Hot and Cold decided to go back into that corner and somehow survive a firebolt and also delay being killed by the cutoff. Something I wanted to say was I think M80's consistent weakness has been these attacks. In Stage 1, Stage 2, their defense has been good, and I think the individual skill on the attack is quite nice, but how they coalesce around Cameraman's calling, how they execute the strategies they put forth, it is not a consistent weakness, but when there is one, it typically feels like that is one of the things that causes them problems. Hot and Cold going for a quick run out, he'll move back inside. So if Cloud9 can bring some of those individual performances back to the forefront, or bring that coordination, the ability to play off each other that we saw win that Manchester, Border could certainly be a close game.
We'd hope so for C9BC's sake. They took us to this hellhole at the end of the day, right? I mean, that's the big thing. I want to make sure that if you call somebody's name on here on Border, especially a team like M80, who are so mechanically gifted, and especially getting to that point of being so strategically sound, that you really got to worry how things are going to play out against them in any series. It's just one of those things where you really want to make sure that you're capable. As of right now, it's been a little bit of rough shot over this entire ordeal, but C9BC have found a way to get a horse back in this race. We're going to have few shield this time around for M80. This is something that's been kind of a hot button topic just because of how many shield operators we've been seeing get so much play. And wouldn't you see it? Blitz as well as Monty both banned out. Fuse works his way in, and we could see some creative, liberties granted to him with these cluster charges here in just a moment. Oh.
All right. Well, I think.
Well.
Diffuser, I think letting the content trash talk influence his thinking a little too aggressively. Thinks he can get away with far more than he can. Keynote trying to do the same will unleash the cluster charge, and the Spirits also has to think better of it. Ducks for cover into small office, and he's got the hatch open to fall back very soon. But Hyper is able to cut down Gunner, and things are looking problematic for Cloud9 Beastcoast. One player drops directly in front of the hatch. One player peeks the door. 4 players from Cloud9 Beastcoast have completely availed themselves to the guns of M80, and it's a flawless round as a result. A strong performance in round 7, and anything but in the subsequent round.
Man, a Fuse shield working out so unbelievably well, and even getting a cluster charge in that dealt some decent damage to the Warden up top. They could knock him down to like 70 HP. So M80 sticking to their guns, staying true to what they wanted to get accomplished inside of that round, and able to take C9 by the horns. And that's a key thing there. Just being able to deal with some of their high-flying antics is going to be a key portion of this. And Diffuser, literally nowhere to be found.
I mean, I found him on Armory Wall. I saw him.
Well, then where did he go?
I knew where he was. He saw the Fuse shield. He was like, oh, this has got to be a freebie. And it was not. M80 actually, like, Libby perfectly baited him, like carrot and stick situation. Well, I mean, that's more like bribery. So I suppose it's kind of like cheese in the mousetrap, be a more apt analogy. Hit or miss so far for Cloud9 Beastcoast, and the lack of a tactical timeout, I think, looming large here with every round that might slip away. He'll go to Customs now. Still a first floor site on the opposite side, though.
Oh, man. We're cooking, huh?
Look at the shield.
The shield placement is crazy right now. Gavini's got verticality under him as well. Listen, I don't hate it. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is this is something that you don't really ever see implemented, but I understand the vision. I see what he's cooking. Just have somebody play around that door safely, around that shield. Don't get nearly as much influence coming in from break.
It's the kind of position that you could really only put players like Gavini in that spot. Like, I can't think of many other players in Rainbow Six as a whole who'd be like, yeah, I'd put there, but Gavini's certainly one of them. Gavini is a guy who can make that work, especially when he's feeling confident, which he generally always is. Utility play for M80 working out well to start. Jail wall denial destroyed, wall opened up afterwards. So now they can move on to bigger and better things, like clearing out this realm on the top floor. You could fight the Warden, or you could go on the opposite side. It appears that M80 are favoring the latter. They've got the drones, the time, and the manpower to do it. Especially with that jail wall opened up, they can always rotate to a direct later on. They will likely have to reconcile themselves with that CCTV presence at some point. You can't just ignore it forever, as if you do, we saw what happened when Cloud9 attacked this site. It'll be there, and it will destroy you.
They're doing their best to make sure that nothing goes awry on this execute, clearing things out with drones that are closer to these entry points. You have an Ash charge for that castle barricade, but Spoit guesses against it. He goes, oh, well, potentially I can creep up the hallway. Maybe find something here over in office, but finally choose to knock this out and work his way back over towards east. No rotation out of C9 BC just yet, and they're another one of these teams that could be quite reactive. We touched on that a bit with Wildcard in our last game, and the way that they would try and just get at the throats of their opponent when certain things happen around the map. Man count goes down a bit, oh, we're swinging. Wall gets popped open, we're throwing utility. Whatever it is, that's what they were trying to accomplish. C9 BC can definitely be very reactive in that way as well, but in turn, it's going to be the opposite direction. They're going to fly back downstairs. Citizen on that lurk roll, as we know him best for. We'll find Gavini inside of the site.
And immediately dips back out. Love that discipline. Just keep the 5v4. You've still got 50 seconds. You don't need to push any further than you already have. Kino spots just a little bit of Gunner's leg and traces him through the wall. A little shock on his face that he landed that one. It's to Cloud9's detriment. 5-3 and still 30 seconds remaining. With this kind of advantage, that could be eons with them right above the site. Spirits reads this correctly. He's got to disrupt it somehow. He'll creep his way along the 90 hallway, but there's a cutoff held. The cameraman, they've got bodies to spare. They're allowed to watch the 90 hallway, the one place they can really be destroyed. One player goes down the hatch, and Hot and Cold can't even find that one. Hyper will go down, and Diffuser's able to find one, but only one. He'll hold. Where is this Diffuser? It's on the opposite side, and there's a gun right on top of it. Time might be on his side, but he needed to land that shot, and it simply will not happen. M80 closer and closer, one round away from stealing their opponent's pick right out from under them.
Man, they're doing a really good job of putting a cap on these aggressive tendencies, Carter. Fantastic implementation across the map, finding those big opening moments, getting some of those lurk moments in there too for Citizen, but then bringing it all back to bear on that top floor, right? Have that cutoff established. You know that Cloud9's going to get desperate. They have got to do something to try and get themselves back into this game, and you just take your time. I mean, we're 40 seconds remaining, and that's when this pick happens out of Kino. And then finally, here in the dying moments, we see a little bit of a plan attempt overseen by Citizen to shut things down. Just from start to end, it was all M80 all day.
An opposite of the wildcard game to start, and even on Clubhouse, this is now becoming, I think, overall a pretty one-sided affair. I mean, we at least thought of it that way on the first half, then I certainly was like, all right, let's wait and see. You know, 4-2 border. Sometimes it can be defender-sided if the defense is winning those entries, and talk about something they haven't done. Win those entries. Overall, especially on that defensive side, I mean, sure, it came late in round 9, but Citizen's able to creep in, cut down Gavini as he tries to rotate back. Then they make good use of the time they have remaining. A worry I've had and a problem M80 have had has been necessarily working around that calling, but today on border, the pieces are looking well oiled. They are working in tandem. When all else fails, you got to get jiggy with it.
I swear, I looked down at my notes, I looked back up, the cadence in your voice hadn't changed, so I had no clue, and I just was like, well, Kino's dead? Like, what just happened? This man just got hit with the intervention from break room door. Oh, Doke on vigil action there.
You don't need that. You don't need the Doke to be. Don't need it.
Yeah, but it's the one thing you probably want the most, honestly, especially on a map like Border, right? But, for M80, going to be something that they're going to be lacking sorely throughout this round. But they definitely still have some utility pieces that can help them clear things out, specifically this Deimos that could be of quite a bit of use.
You do wish you had that Dokkaebi in tandem just to get the direct intel on one person, general intel to allow for a really quick execute, but the Damos can still work. Certainly can still work. Gavini cut down. Still the Boss G in play. Gunnar taking that Gavini spot. He'll reveal his position, but it's probably already well known. 4v4, and time probably still favoring M80 as long as they can acquire either the CCTV and the East Stairs control or pressure in pretty good time. Diffuser will rotate out as nobody's actively watching East. He's clearly concerned about it, but he has found a little bit of a gap in the attacking side right now. Oh, well, never mind. They've got direct intel on that. And we'll see if Diffuser is actually punished for it. Shots sailing by him. Now Gunnar a bit isolated. Deathmark Tracker will go out. Diffuser's in Fountain, so it's not a big deal. They've at least isolated his position, but M80 still working low on time. And no 5v4 like before. Something's gotta give if they want to make progress attacking.
Oh, Spoit wants it so bad. AK-12 won't give it to him, though. Down to 45 seconds left, and at a bare minimum, M80 have been able to equalize the man count, but this top floor has been hell to deal with. Just have not been able to actually dig out any of these extended players, and now M80 have got to look into some other means in order to try and take this fight. Spoit's going to work his way back over towards the security side of this window. And indeed, but when's the actual fight bell going to be rung? It's right now, and it's practically instantaneous as Gunnar will take him down with the Boss G.
RKO with one shot, 1v4. Citizen can find one, but nope, nothing else. Cloud9 managed to fight back after dropping 2 rounds in a row. Gunnar, massive performance. 2 spawn peaks. 2 spawn peaks from Breakdoor this game. One from Spoit. And not one from Diffuser, but one from Gunnar with that Boss G. A second later on to cut down the very man himself. And just after I complimented M80 for their well put together and coordinated attacks, we have an armory defense, or excuse me, armory attack that can't figure out what the hell to do. A Vigil with a Boss G and one guy supporting him from 90 was too much for M80 to figure out. The entire round it seemed to stall them out. And Gunnar certainly had his work cut out for him, Sam. We can agree on that. But it seems like a lot of potential was left on the table.
C9 BC on their map pick so far have looked a little bit teeter-tottery, my friend. A little back and forth here. Some real big positives, some things just smashing right into the dirt. But only 2 rounds separate them now here from OT. M80 have played a heck of a game here so far on border and have 2 attempts to get this across the line. You can see C9 BC already want to be somewhat aggressive. Wasn't for the spawn kill there, it was for the barbed wire that Gavini wanted to put outside, but still, some spawn kills lined up. Gunnar trying to return the favor from what we saw Spoit do in a very similar situation earlier.
Kind of thing Gunnar has always done on his team. Sometimes he can look silly, and then sometimes he could style on him. Just depends how the winds are blowing on a given day and how he's aiming. He'll back off for now, as the Boss G seems to now be a staple in their lineup. We've seen Vigil 3 times, but not the success that we've seen the past couple rounds. Ventilation was pretty horrendous for Cloud9 Beastcoast. It was a flawless round for M80, and every time Cloud9 Beastcoast took a fight, justified or otherwise, they were shut down in all those individual 1v1s. A bit more passive from M80 this go around, though the fuse shield still is a facet of their attacking lineup. The thing I can at least commend is Cloud9 Beastcoast are holding on and playing a lot more passive than they were before. Thinking about you, Diffuser.
Found the cam. That's usually the area you look for. Right there on Dome. Diffuser with a big moment. You were thinking about him while he was dreaming of Hyper. Now gun him down outside on the balcony. As the angle, the smoke comes through, Diffuser's going to try and spam it, but he'll only tag Kino. Just a scrap of his HP falls off. And Diffuser will line up the headshot. Kino, too lackadaisical in the hallway, and now Cloud9 is dusting M80. They might have them at every single entry, every single facet, all orifices blocked off. C9 BC find a beautiful round to try and bring this scoreline back to bear.
Well, Ventilation Workshop both times basically went the exact same way, just the opposite team benefiting. This go around, M80 tried to quickly rush in with Fuse shield down below, and Diffuser not only cuts down Hyper outside of East Stairs, but on the second attempt is able to take down the shield. The impetus for that whole push. Gotta give Cloud9 Beastcoast credit where credit is due. Now have won the majority of the rounds on that defensive side, 3-2. They still gotta win one more just to have another chance at closing out Border. Say another, haven't had one so far. And M80 could still very much pull it out. We'll go to Teller's bathroom. Not seen so far this second half. All 4 sides played by both teams on their respective defensive halves. We'll see if a shield gets brought this time, Sam. But I think M80 will probably try to calm things down a little bit since the rushes. When Beastcoast haven't given them openings, haven't been working.
So, what's your definition of a shield?
I mean, usually it refers to the ballistic shield operators.
It's still a ballistic shield, technically.
It might shield ballistics, but it is not what I would colloquially refer to. Hold on. It might shield ballistics, but it doesn't refer to ballistic shield in the way that I am familiar with.
How far up your nose did you shove those glasses? Your metaphorical glasses?
About 50 yards.
Just right through my skull. Just straight through.
Came up.
No, they will bring the Blackbeard. Usually in rounds like this, we see people lean on some favorable things.
All right. I don't even know.
But who's got Ember Rise on?
I don't know.
Oh, well, it's not Gav. I can tell you that. That's very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. He's got the G2 fit on, dude. He's dripping down.
Well, Gavini might be going for cleanup duty right now, as both Kino and I believe Spoit all the way outside on. Oh, look at this. Oh, he sees him! Trying to take this fight. Certainly favor the Blackbeard, unfortunately. That shield will tank it. You have to put one back on right afterwards. It was the castle, I believe, that actually downed Kino. Gunner will be able to cross soon afterwards, and there we go. Gavini fights it one too many times. A pretty ingenious answer to that problem, and with Gunner falling on the rotate, M80 have found the solution to their CCTV problem. Citizen spots another creeping around the east stairs, though that's a problem for another time. Oh, well.
Oh. Well, for Diffuser, it was a problem for right now, wasn't it?
Unfortunate. Unfortunate indeed.
Most definitely. Almost feel more bad for Gunner. He just drops right to the waiting arms of Citizen. So one person you always have to be concerned with on that lurk roll, and probably one of the best nooks that we've had in history. Usually whenever I think of that character, I think of Citizen and I think of Aces. And, well, Citizen obviously making his presence known inside of this one. It's down to 2 instead of a 2 versus 5. We saw a lot of opportunities from our roster wildcard earlier in moments like this, but it is a Herculean effort we're going to have to see out of C9 BC here. Hot and Cold might be the starter, though.
Might just be. Him and Spirit's able to flank, pinch that Nook. There's a couple on East Stairs, but they're all ready for him. Hot and Cold still looks to take the fight, but there's simply too many angles to worry about. This game has gone in fits and starts. A Beastcoast dominant victory, an M80 streak, but 2 rounds can separate the winner and the loser in regulation, and it's M80 looking on top. 7-5 on Cloud9's pick. M80's Clubhouse coming up next, Sam. Our major champs might have an early date in the LCQ if they don't play their cards right.
Yes, sir. I think Foxay might have had the script there. Are we going to see the 2-0? The 2-0 that he said it had to happen. And if we don't, that makes things even sweeter on Night Haven Labs, the potential with how that could go.
And you know what's funny? If it's a 2-0, Foxay can just say that did have to happen because we won't know that alternate reality. But Clubhouse and potentially M80 moving forth. We'll be right after this break. Don't go anywhere.
He's alive, dead.
Oh, freeze.
Everyone tellers. Is he in tellers?
Archives on me, archives on me.
Nice!
Let's go!
Let's go, boys.
That's what we
Holy
need.
shit. Yo, the BB was mythical. Mythical BB. One tap that guy, bro. Mythical.
Well, Diffuser talked a lot about how all M80 could do was hit hero plays. C9 BC could have used a couple of hero plays, losing their map pick to M87-5. What a start to the series.
Yeah, unfortunate start for C9 BC, especially with that interview. I mean, obviously, it just came down to a lot of big gunfights, and it wasn't necessarily hero plays. I mean, I know at the start of the game, we saw big Sploit 4K.
Yeah.
People were definitely outperforming themselves, but M80 as a whole just played really good on such an aggressive sided map. They really were able to manage C9 BC's early aggression, slow them down, and force them to have to play a trade game on a map like Border, which is something you don't see all the time. And C9 BC stayed in it, but obviously M80 was just, they were just able to scrape by. I mean, there was some really good defenses from them. I think that's what set the tone.
I mean, everyone across the board from M80 was performing extremely well. I think Cameraman was the only one who wasn't, but as their IGL, he is the one that is leading the charge, setting everyone up for success. And I mean, pulling out a 7-5 win, you got to feel good. You didn't have to go OT, and now you're going into your map. So if they can continue setting the pace, and that's something that I really talked about going into this game, is Cloud9 Beastcoast really like to set the tempo, set the pace of the game, so they're going to have to match that energy. But that's exactly what they did. The opposite of it. They were the one setting the tempo. They were the one forcing C9 Beastcoast into these gunfights, into these trades, into these positions that they just couldn't seem to muster out these wins. So again, I mean, huge kudos to M80. And, you know, Fox talked about these big maps is what really hinders this team's performance to be able to be a team and play in that dynamic style of play. And then we see a smaller map like Border where it is very condensed. It's very gun heavy. It's very team oriented to be playing around the map. And then sure enough, you see M80 pull out a 7-5.
Yeah, and you know, we talked right before we jumped into the game about how good of an attacking team C9 BC is. And I think it really speaks to the adaptability of M80 that they just sort of absorbed that attack and almost transferred it back into them.
And I think it's important because I touched up on that. You know, they are going to be starting out here. I want to see them do something different from what Luminosity may have done during their game that gave C9 Beastcoast such leverage into those attack rounds. And I mean, you really saw it off the bat how well M80 was playing their trade game. That, again, they were forcing C9 Beastcoast into these unwinnable positions or stalling out the clock or just kind of getting a free pick where maybe C9 Beastcoast was getting a little overzealous in some situations. But again, M80 did a really good job at punishing C9 Beastcoast in a couple of these rounds.
Yeah, I think C9 BC was expecting a typical Border, a very aggressive style where you're just trading kills back and forth, but that's not what M80 really gave them. They were forcing them to get into the map, go for really close executes where M80 could focus on those trades and isolate them to places that they want to be. And obviously getting a 4-2 split on Border defense is no easy threat. To be able to do that, especially on Border, it's such an attack-sided map. So when you're able to go up, get a little bit more comfort on the weaker side, once M80 went onto attack, it was very close. It was a very back and forth. We saw it. The stats literally looked like there wasn't one team better than the other, and it could have gone to overtime. And it just came down to the fact that M80 was able to secure a nice little betting to lay in on their defense, that when they went and swapped, they were able to try all of these different operators, the Fuse, the Blackbeard, and eventually, sure enough, one of those crazy operators was able to get them that advantage in the rounds and get them a 7-5.
Yeah, the Fuse actually worked out.
They got
yeah, it was wild to see them run through all those different ops. Now we're moving on to a Clubhouse here. Clubhouse, of course, where M80 8-6 against C9 BC in the group stage. If you're sitting in C9 BC's position right now, are you having flashbacks? Are you freaking out a little bit?
Yeah, so I think C9 BC is very scared. I mean, for them to originally have lost to them on that same map, and obviously now going into this best of 3, they were very confident, but also losing their first pick Border, and now looking at Clubhouse, maybe it's a little bit stressful. Now, if it would have been the tide's turn, they would have felt like, okay, the confidence of, we just lost to them, they were the worst team, we're the better team, Clubhouse, we'll fix that. But now they lost their first map. They have to go into Clubhouse, a map that they already lost, with this mental hindrance of losing Border as well. I don't necessarily know if the confidence will be at peak, but of course they had to have prepared a lot of different strategy to get ready for M80, because obviously you're not going to go into it with the exact same game plan that you brought that to them in the first place that got them a loss on Clubhouse during the regular stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we go back to Diffuser, you know, being very arrogant and, you know, just kind of just, you know, saying M80 doesn't have what it takes. You know, if Citizen shows up, you know, and Hero plays. But, like, at the end of the day, now you're finding yourself on a Clubhouse. And we've seen it many times throughout Siege where a team wins the other opponent's map pick. Granted, it should most likely go the other way. So this very well could could be a close game again. You know, it could be a 7-5 just reverse, but I am expecting C9 Beastcoast to bring us something a little different versus what we saw. But again, how much that is going to be different, again, it's going to be so minute that it's really going to be hard to pay attention to those small things. It could be just as simple as someone playing a different position or using a little bit of util somewhere else that they may not have used in a previous game.
I mean, with the scene kind of set as it is, how do you think this game goes here? Do you think this is M80 walking away with it, or do you think it's more, as you're saying, Laxing, a kind of a run back? Maybe we see C9 Beastcoast push it to a map 3.
I think Fox did like hit the nail on the head saying that M80 needs to close us in at 2-0, because when we talk about resilience and we talk about mental fortitude, C9 Beastcoast absolutely has that underneath their belt. It's not to say that M80 doesn't, but you got to look at they're major champions. Yeah. They played at an international level, beating all these top teams and securing it all. So I do agree with Fox that they do have to close it out here in 2-0, but what that's going to look like, I don't know. But I can say I do believe this game will be extremely close. And again, it's going to be a situation what we just talked about with the prior game. Whoever makes the least amount of stakes should be walking away from this game with their win.
Yeah, Clubhouse is a similar play style to Border, obviously a little more even on the sides, but it's about how you win those attacks. And we already know that M80's defense is what won them Border. Yeah. So if they can go into it still getting a really good advantage on defense, the map still prioritizes gunfights and winning those fights and big plays. Unfortunately for Diffuser, we're going to need to see big plays from C9 BC. But if it were to go to that last map of Labs, then I don't see M80 winning that by no means. So obviously I think M80 has to win it at 2-0 here.
Well, that's it for us here. We're going to get into the game. Let's turn it over to the only two top-tier casting duo that has names that end in X. It's Lynx and Stokes.
Well,
might be a big fat X on C9 BC's playoff record, depending on how this map goes. I'll tell you that much. I mean, Border, certainly I would agree with the desk's assessment, Sam. The M80's defense is making that map for them, but since the IGL swap, since bringing on cameraman, M80 have played Clubhouse 5 times and only lost it a single time. This is as comfortable a map as comfortable can be. And the 8-6 victory over Cloud9 Beastcoast earlier in the stage is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's the main thing that we're focused on coming into this game. Is M80 capable of closing things out here on Clubhouse up against C9 BC after just taking their own map of Border? Now leaning into Clubhouse, they're definitely feeling confident after already picking up that first map. The bans are coming through. We're going to have both the shields removed yet again here. Too much respect going to both respective sides in this regard.
Nobody wanting to have either Hot and Cold with the ability to play Monty or Kino with the ability to play Blitz. Nobody wants to deal with the shields. And if you're really that desperate, let's see Kino bring the fuse like he did last time on Border. Final bans transpire, Tubarao and Azami gone. So of course, Dokkaebi and Deimos back in play, just like they were on Border. For C9 Beastcoast, you lost Border. The individual performances have looked okay, but Spirits is really the only saving grace. Diffuser was able to pick it up on that defensive side, but so much ground was lost early on that M80 had a cushion to fall back on once the side swap actually happened. With M80 starting out on the attacking side this time, if it's this first half that makes it again, if M80 can get that 4-2 split, if they can stop Cloud9 Beastcoast roam or put enough pressure on these anchors, that'll be enough to win 2-0. I agree with Fox. I think Nighthaven is a Cloud9 Beastcoast victory through and through. But I also just happen to think that Clubhouse is looking quite good for M80.
Honestly, I think this is one of those situations where we just get to sit back, Carter, have a nice little bevy, and see what the heck happens. Because really, these two are pretty neck and neck, especially with just some of the crazier things that we can see happening around. These are two of the rosters, at least in NA's current iteration, that come to mind. The third, obviously, being Space Station Gaming. So, for C9 BC and M80, our very first round is now active. Heading out in the field is M80 for the very first time. And what a lineup we already have. Kino already leaning over to the Fuse Shield.
He's a fiend for it. He loves it. He can't get enough. Shields. Every single time. Well, not every single time, but he's also the guy that played Blackbeard. So, like, almost every single time when it's available. gym bedroom defense to start for Cloud9 Beastcoast. Hard breach charging, trying to dodge any denial on the opposite wall, which there is a bandit, so it's a well-founded concern, though as we can see, he's miles away. Nowhere near the jacuzzi wall, which I admire their thoroughness. And they all dodged the C4 as well, so good start for M80. Likely see the normal rotation over to CCTV side to at least open the wall. Don't necessarily need to hold it. But I am intrigued to see what they actually decide to do. How are they going to deal with these defenses? It's Cloud9 Beastcoast. You know they're going to extend. You know that players like Gavini, like Gunnar are going to pose you problems. So will M80 try to ignore it, or will they try to break through it?
Oh, construction single's been dealt with. Trying to look in to see what potentially is going on over in logistics. Saw that drone go out there from Kiki, but nothing just yet. He's going to come down and use the hard breach utility here on the castle barricade. Not a bad option. Really like that out of him. Able to get rid of that and make construction even that much easier to try and deal with. Back into the drone play now as they need to try and confirm a couple of things around the site, including a head count. You have that player down low. Going to see if there's anything pre-placed down here that could get them into trouble, but not as of now. You still have a couple of audibles here. 2 nitro cells have already been expanded for the defense, so won't have to worry too much about that for M80, but still want to make sure that there isn't anybody in that neck of the woods.
Oh, Gavini spotted. A bit too far off the beaten path, and he falls to the 5-5-6. Candela's flying by, Diffuser, Hot and Cold, and Gunnar, both winning their respective fights. The initial M80 execute stalled for the time being, and Cloud9 Beastcoast able to win everything after that first engagement. Kino storms up the stairs, but few shield, you can protect one way, and you're exposed pretty aggressively on the other. Lost the opening pick, but Cloud9 Beastcoast win everything after that to take their first.
Yeah. C9 BC capable of standing tall in a lot of key positions around that bomb site, and M80 just could not hold a candle to those swings, especially like how we saw things get played out by that player over inside of red, just holding things in a tight-knit area and not really exposing himself to the elements there. The hatch play, the drone play, all of that stuff just never really crossing his mind until that key moment where he was able to take down that player rotating in from the hatch. So very well done from C9 BC across the board. There is quite a few kills going every which way except Gavini, and it'll lead to a C9 BC victory.
Remember Spoit from that first round on Border, though. Sometimes you got to die to win. Sometimes you got to lose the battle to win the war. Got to give your life for the cause sometimes. It's the way it goes.
It's true. It's true.
Move down to Church Arsenal now. Cloud9 Beastcoast will have the Vigil back in play. Definitely a roster that makes the most usage of Vigil Boss G. Got to give them credit for that. If you can't give them credit for the major, at least you can say that. And with likely some obvious presence on the top floor, with Gunnar fully reinforcing, it will be a pretty loose setup with likely the castle barricades reinforcing the middle floor, allowing a retreat down either through bar or down main stairs. We'll see how M80 deal with it, because once everyone started rotating back for Cloud9 before, M80 were not up to snuff to dealing with those engagements. Oh, all right. Spoit.
Oh.
Spoit's walking down blue. They've decided to go with the rush, and unfortunately, Diffuser was ready for it, playing on that blue hatch the entire time. He popped a couple Vulcan packs there and then immediately dropped in M80 Sam. That gamble did not pay off.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should let him cook a bit, but it's spoiled. That's the key thing here. There's nothing really you're gonna get out of this meal, and now C9 BC quite a ways ahead here, especially when it comes to map control. So all this whole roam game going on, some recognition here from Citizen, but a long path ahead here for M80 as they try and figure out this top floor setup for C9.
I think the Deathmark trackers, all right, well, never mind. I was going to say the Deathmark trackers will probably be one of the most useful tools and potentially the only tool to try and bring this back, but it's gone. Goodbye, Citizen. You could use the Candelas now, but giving away that tool early on when you would like to save it for the execute, I suppose you got to make the most of a bad situation, and Cameraman, unfortunately, a bit of a pessimist, decides to leave his team in the 2v5. An early exit. Hyper now triggering a goo mine will unleash some shots to the Khan's single wall. but to no avail. Kino drops down by himself off the back of those Candelas, and so Hyper finds himself as the last man standing. Hyped up M80's prowess on Clubhouse quite extensively, did I, and aside from one impactless frag so far, it has been Cloud9 Beastcoast every single time.
And no traction so far, no dice for M80. And it's really just been the fact that they haven't been able to find a strong opener. C9 BC have been ready for these fights, they've been ready for these rushes, and none of it working out M80's way. Hyper's gonna drop into blue, he should be dead at a moment's notice, and he will be. He'll get one for his stats, and that's about it. Cloud9 BC will take round 2 as well. And, you know, it starts to beg the question, what are we gonna see out of the audibles here from M80?
And what we see in early tactical timeout, depending on... Oh, right now. All right, sounds good.
Wow, look at you, man. Well done. Pat on the back.
Listen, I really am quite something. What can I say? I mean, in all fairness, like, I was like, maybe we wait another round. Maybe Cameraman will, like, try and figure it out on the third side. But no, things are clearly that bad for M80 right now. And to be fair, I mean, Gym Bedroom, we saw that initial push, and then it's easy to say in a game as chaotic as Siege. Oh, maybe Cloud9 Beastcoast won all the fights. I mean, that's literally what I said. And then we see Basement, and Spoiler's like, I'm going to go for the lurk. And then, unfortunately, I think disrespected or discounted the impact Diffuser could have holding the blue hatch. Either knew about him and didn't care, or didn't know about him, and that's probably worse. And then afterwards, well, we all died to a vigil upstairs. So if that doesn't spell tactical timeout, I don't know what would, to be fair.
Yeah. Especially on your map pick. I think that's the key thing here. Like, things are not fundamentally getting done. And that's what they really want to highlight and try and change up. Need some stable ground. Try and work from that. M80 will see if they can potentially give what. I almost actually cursed because I hate this operator so much, guys. Listen, a little bias here. Not a big fan of Cav. Such high risk, such high reward. We'll never take that away from her. But boy, howdy, do I hate Cav. This operator is just something else. Because, like I said, it's one or the other. You either are the biggest hero of a round, or you completely destroy all hopes and dreams of your team. At least you got a cute face, right? I mean, come on.
You know, I wasn't sure who was sitting in the shower by herself with the Caveira icon above her, but now that my best good friend Stefan gave me a close-up shot of her face, now I know. Thank you, Stefan. I appreciate it. I love you. Also, if that was Nova, I love you too. It's fine. So, I mean, as Sam and I have pointed out, and the Observer pointed out as well, we do have a Cav on the board, hidden all the way in the bathroom. Ironically, or coincidentally, excuse me, when we cut to the Cav, Citizen was laughing, so part of me kind of wonders if M80 know about it, but who knows?
It's hard to say. Now, what I can tell you is at some moment in time, somewhere throughout this map, a lurk is going to happen, but it won't be Kino, because he is so dead. He is so unbelievably dead. Nitrocell goes off like a bomb outside, completely eviscerates him. Cameraman gonna get hit pretty bluntly with that as well, but I was mostly focused on Citizen back on the Nook here to see where he ends up lining up throughout this entire area. But as of now, it's gonna be C9 BC that are constantly drilling M80.
Now, the utility usage very, very effective on Platwall, and obviously the C4 getting the kill afterwards. Gunner and Citizen likely going to butt heads at some point. Gunner, love the guy, but it's very difficult for him to sit still. He's going to want to try to hit a flank at some point, or at least gather some more information. And Citizen will try to creep his way through bar, I imagine. Maybe even into lounge later on. Losing that Capital, though, it's going to be a big problem for M80 if they want to take Garage, which generally you want to take Garage. Oh, well, Gavini just sees a Maverick opening up Garage wall, and you know that man's not moving. 5-3.
Easy peasy. Hyper will finally take out one and make it a 4 versus 3. Citizen, seemingly an oracle here. Is he gonna have him knock out the window? Oh, he is.
Oh, no.
I think he's in the stairwell, so he's okay for right now, but it is definitely worrisome. Oh, Gunner gets one. Citizen, are you gonna go for the hop? If he does, this Lusion pistol will just immediately remove him from play. That pistol in close range is disgusting. What do you, Gunner?
He's playing with him.
That was strictly for broadcast, dude. Nobody. What are you teabagging a drone for?
No. Not only for broadcast, but for himself as well. Nice shot by Gunner. Citizen is able to remove garage control, so no Capital be damned. It costs a lot of his HP. And M80 know that Cav is in the wind, and I imagine that's not going to be a comforting thought to any of the two remaining players. Citizen with the diffuser going the breach. He's going to have to make this cross with the diffuser, and on 1 HP, and red's still a factor. This is going to be difficult. That's why the flashbangs are oh so important, so he will creep in, but there's one down below, and Gunner's the man to do it. Timeout wasted, unfortunately, as no recovery to insight for M80. 3 rounds in a row for Cloud9, and it's all laughs and good times.
Well, when you're playing like this, I guess you can do whatever you want, right? C9 BC get away with a heck of a lot of things there. Some big punishing moments over towards the way of M80, and just nothing really that they can do. A tech pause now. And you made a joke earlier, Carter, that was not the time to kick the desktop, but I think right now might be the perfect time to kick the desktop if you're M80.
It's actually, you know, little bit of the storm surge left over from the hurricane is hit Gavini's PC. So, by the way, actually, I kind of forgot about that. Gavini had went through a whole hurricane and is back playing. I actually was kind of worried about that because I remember last week when obviously Merc had to sub in. That's why he subbed in the first place. Gavini not able to play when there's a really bad hurricane going on. He's not that dedicated to the cause. He'd be insane otherwise. But yeah. I'm very glad he got back.
He's just outside with Starlink just attached to his arm. Just craziness, man. Craziness. No, that hurricane was terrible. Absolutely terrible. Pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, real bad, but Gavini is back and doing quite well this series. But I think Spirits and Gunner and, I mean, kind of splitting hairs at this point. I think everyone on Beastcoast is doing extremely well. It is M80 that are down 3-0, and I think Hyper's got a kill pretty much every single round, but even a lot of those have felt impactless. It is despite the hype that Fox leveled on M80 on Clubhouse or their chances in the series if they, can win Border, for example. The praise I levied on them.
Carter, perfect thing. Yeah, it's Fox's fault. I love that right there. Perfect.
That's
yes.
Not what I want to imply there. Not what I want to imply there. Just wanted to.
If M80 loses Clubhouse, it's Fox's fault. I like this. I like where this is going.
That is criminal editorializing what I just said.
I might have taken some creative liberties.
Well, what is there even really to talk about? 3 people have no kills for M80. Kino has 1.
Nah.
It's nobody's done anything really. Hyper has, to be fair. He's got, I think, 3 so far. But again, he got the opening kill and the only kill for M80 in a round that they lost. He got an impactless... No, and his other 2 kills were literally in round 2.
Yeah.
In a 1vx.
So, in a way, and I'm not... Listen, I love Hyper. Lovely guy. In a way, a little stat patty, all right? At least from what he's gotten so far. That's not his fault. Things happen. But yeah, the moral of the story is this. M80 really have not accomplished anything so far on Clubhouse.
No, it has been an incredibly one-sided affair so far. The utility play has been very strong for Cloud9, as we just saw in that game. All right. Big dog. Let's go. See, we had the 1 restart last time. We're multiplying. We do exponential here at the NA League. Now we got 2.
This is something else. Yeah. If it keeps going, we might be here all night if this just continues to grow.
The ironic thing is I could have stomached this in the Sonics wildcard game. There was so much food for thought in that game. Unfortunately, another one has M80 down 0-3. We will have a break coming up. When by coming up, I mean right now. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, and we'll hope that M80 tries to recover afterwards. Now, we might be back in the game, but unfortunately there is still a critical problem that we could not find a solution for, which is we couldn't upload any more kills to the M80 scoreboard. So it might all be zeros, but that's very little changes from what was there before, Sam. It has been a one-sided game. 3-0, sometimes it's a bit deceptive. In this case, it is unbearably accurate.
Yeah, it's singing all the praises of C9, and it's singing it properly. You know, this is something that's going down in the history books here, at least for how dominant we've seen things so far. And they want to make sure that they, wow, they pick up this chapter where they left off. Right, Gunner's gonna clip Kino outside with the Boss G. You can see why a lot of people have this thing in its crosshairs for a little bit of a nerf in the near future. You're just
It's just like of course.
yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly.
Like, why not? I mean, might as well. Fortunately, no soft destruction on the side of the attack. Thatcher has Claymore is not breaching charges, so you will have to use a Selma on the plat wall. Kind of okay, though, because, I mean, if there's nothing on the plat wall, it's usually half your hard breaching on gym bedroom anyway, so might as well use a Selma charge where you wouldn't have to otherwise. Exothermic now dedicated to the con single wall. So where do we move here? M80 are already down 4-5. The operator they lost was Ying. Ying, Sam! They lost Ying to a Boss G punch hole spawn peak.
Yeah.
How do you recover from that?
Mentally or physically?
Well, I can't account for them. I can't account for mental states, so.
Well, physically, it's all about getting the picks over here, right? You really want to try and get something isolated out on the cash side. That's what they're trying to work on right now. They know that there's going to be some semblance of a fight back from this defense. It's going to be that nitro cell that we see pour in. But the Selma charges are still going to be delivered. A well-placed EMP. And now they've got some semblance of control over this cache area. This is going to help out a lot as well, as Citizen will take down Gavini, but not before they donate another player. But fortunately enough, we do have another big pickup, as we're going to have yet another body fall for C9, but the same could be said for M80 with a minute remaining. It's 3-2 in favor of C9 BC.
Really pivotal kill for Diffuser on the way out, because credit where credit's due, M80 working that disadvantageous position really well. Flashbang into red, but the two players push up from the bottom, so Gavini, I think, definitely expecting somebody to push in from the breach, and no player manifests. Then the mute dies pretty soon after that. Diffuser doesn't get that kill. I think M80 have a pretty good shot back into this. Arguably, they still do. Might be in the disadvantage, but with that Boss G, I mean, what are you to do at that point? 4 rounds in a row now. Commendable recovery in the mid-round for M80, and then it began and ended with Cloud9 Beastcoast.
Cloud9 BC all day, man. I mean, they've had the advantage in every single facet of this game so far. Yeah, M80 are doing some things and making some plans and executing well on some portions, like what we saw around Red Stairs, right? Able to get some big kills there. But C9 BC respond in kind, and that's the biggest thing. They're constantly, keeping themselves ahead in these rounds, just through and through. And M80 just really don't have the opportunity to actually work their way towards the site. It's really complicated for them right now too, because a lot of these early engagements either just can't go their way, or in that regard, they just get completely caught off guard by an angle that's worked its way outside.
Feel awfully silly for touting, since the cameraman change, M80 are, I don't even know what I said, like 4-1, 5-1 on Clubhouse. I've only lost it one time. You would know that from the way they're playing right now. And, you know, I know Fox mentioned that, you know, no, it was Gabe, excuse me. Gabe mentioned that, a lot of this, you know, could come down to the prep work, even some of the minuscule details where bit of utilities where. And I'm sure some of that is playing a factor. But again, perhaps it's my reptilian brain still, you know, left over from evolution, but like, I'm drawn to the Boss G more. I'm drawn to the aggression more. I'm drawn to the fact that Cloud9 Beastcoast seem like they can't lose a gunfight if somebody paid them off. They might lose 2, but every round they have kept at least 3 alive every single time.
It's just so unbelievable for M80 right now. You can see C9 BC, they're willing to risk whatever, man. We're going for some of the old gold strategies here on Clubhouse, man. I mean, gold in sense of rank, but just golden is in, let me lean on this and see if I can get something silly to go off. And I mean, hey, so far so good. We got to see something potentially out of the kitchen doorway, kitchen doorway there. We don't get to see that one ever so often anymore. But for M80, gonna slow things down a little bit, especially with the way that things have been going. that's more than likely going to pay off. It starts to, at least initially here. All that drone work leads to a nice frag, but they will get a couple shots back. Cameraman's in the neighborhood, though, and the neighborhood watch is ready to play. They'll take out Gavini and give them man advantage yet again here for basically the very first time throughout this entire clubhouse.
Yeah, I think basically the very first time is an apt way of phrasing it, because Hyper might have got the opening pick in round 1, but it was right as the execute began, and Cloud9 Beastcoast got every kill after that. This is really the first time they've started a round with still, like, work to do with an advantage. And what we saw there was basically them doing exactly what they did to that Warden on red stairs, but earlier on, more on their terms, and with an actual advantage now as a result of it. Diffuser is still on the top floor. I'm curious if this catches them off guard. Oh, he spots one, but he's patient. You couldn't tell that by all the shift walking. Well, now you can tell by him flanking Hyper through the hatch. Still one player. He knows somebody else is up here. He remembers that player he saw the briefest glimpse of. And Kino, well, now that he's aware of the Kapkan roaming up top, he decides to leave the building entirely. We're now running into a bit of a tricky spot, Sam, because in the 3v3, and M80 have done very little work. No X-Kairos utilized with 35 seconds left. A lot of this might just come down to what Citizen can find on this lurk and whether those Candelas have any impact.
And that's a big thing. Still trying to get hatches open, trying to work your way in to get a plant down, all with Diffuser pressuring you from main stairs. This is a huge risk right now for M80. 18 seconds, 15 seconds when this hatch actually pops and Diffuser's gonna fly in. He hits the deck, but it's actually hot and cold to deliver. The camera got me there for just a second, but it's gonna be Cameraman that goes down. Citizen will respond in kind, and we might actually have a plant that's successful here. That Candela goes off. It blinds Citizen entirely. He turns on a dime, tries to kill the man inside of blue. This case will successfully go down. Spirits doesn't exactly know where it is. Try and work around the smoke. Knows there's got to be one deeper inside of Arsenal, but he just cannot find the angle. It's actually going to be a nice rotation here out of Citizen as well as he heads back up towards Kitchen. They've got everything implemented for this round to be successful.
Every single thing. Spirit's desperately trying to find this gunfight, and Kino finally gives it. You know somebody's rotating back to that hatch. Can he find it around the corner? And does Citizen have the angle? Will he have to drop? Yes, he does. Spirits hears the sound cue, but there's so little time remaining. The kill does not matter. You've won the battle, but lost the war. M80 still a hill to climb, but at least one round in the first half.
Yeah, they're going to be happy with that one too, man, because it was a struggle, right? Especially with the fact they had all of that, player count still to deal with on the bomb side, and let alone that, but you still have Diffuser up top trying to run amok of things. Now, they get some huge frags, that huge opener that really allows them to work their way back into the round, but it was just scary every single step of the way. If those gunfights with them dropping into Armory did not go both of their ways, that's more than likely a C9 BC round. But fortunately enough, some very accurate moments there out of M80 will get them their first round here on Clubhouse.
Really needed it too. Really needed it with how just rough those first 4 rounds were. I mean, C9 BC were starting to just ego them at that point. And it might have come down to a 1v1, but Citizen able to get that kill over in blue. And of course, as you said, all the gunfights more broadly just barely going M80's way throughout the majority of the round. Giving credit to their early game as well. The kind of round we need to see, at least when it comes to that strong beginning. It's a little bit more confident in what they could accomplish. It'll only be a 4-2 half at the absolute best. So we go back down to basement for our final bomb site in the first 6.
Well, the Barrett 50 cal, Boss G back in the hands of Gunner. No snipes this time around. Trying to keep things a little bit more tight-knit, a little closer to the chest as he will be occupying this top floor. Drone in already from Cameraman. Couple shots towards it as well, so they know that the jig is up, at least when it comes to their positioning at that moment in time. Spoit's going to drop into Logi here. Nobody in this neck of the woods. Citizen trying to be that counter angle here for them as they do clear things out. Almost catches himself a player here inside of a garage, but they will quickly skimper off over towards the oil pit. That's going to be Gunner, who we just saw on that top floor, moments ago.
You talked about Gunner playing more conservatively. All of Cloud9 are now at the site. Gunner's completely rotated back. Gavini is moving up the bottom part of the main stairs, but not any further. Deathmark tracker spotted him, so can't really blame him for it. But they've ceded a lot of ground to M80, and we're in the Sonics wildcard game where we saw teams consistently running Tubarao, Cade, Bandit even on the bottom floor. There's no similar utility facing M80. I mean, both impact grenades are already gone. Think of how impactful they were to get M80 basically like executing with 10 seconds remaining. I mean, they're taking a long time, but I am a little worried for Cloud9. How are you going to really deal damage to M80?
Oh. Well, that's an answer right there for you. I don't know if that was a Nitro out of Gava or what happened there, but either way, Spoit's on 2 HP. The guy can barely draw a breath right now. And M80 trying to open up a few lines of sight to try and assist them with this deeper armory position, but Hot and Cold's all the way in dirt. Got a Jackal in the lineup for the very first time today. We haven't seen that operator just yet, and now a scan will work its way in from him, and it's currently on Gavini here inside of Church, but still, full man count for both respective sides, and in the dying moments of this round, something's got to give.
Something's got to. I mean, M80, technically speaking, have everything they want. There's no roamers to speak of, no real potential for flanks. Cloud9 Beastcoast might have the angles, but Citizen is now going to use those Deathmark trackers to try and give himself an advantageous gunfight in blue. Spirits wins the first engagement. Hyper falls. You still got to worry about Citizen, though. He could still win the round from this position. Well, he could have. That's a past tense thing, not a present tense thing. As it's a 5-1-1 for Cloud9 Beastcoast. That's what's happening right now. All the gunfights go their way, and that one blip in round 5 is just a small bit of green in a wide ocean of blue.
Well. Really not too much to be said about that one, is there? Just quickly dispatched, and C9 BC very happy with the results. A 5-1-1 for them. And, I mean, what else can be said? They play things out on a dime there, man. That pacing change catches M80 completely off guard. They really don't have a game plan implemented to try and spearhead in and get those big pickups. And nothing really coming of it. But a long road ahead of them now. That's the key thing. The wildest thing to me as of right now is that this is M80's map pick. Clubhouse is where they wanted to take C9 BC to, and these offenses have not came easy, not in the slightest.
No, and I think that's the most surprising thing. Is it's not been all bad. I think when M80 have had to clear power positions, they have looked quite good. That red stairs clear, for example, being what stands out in my mind the most, but everything outside of that, I mean, it's certainly been C9 Beastcoast winning gunfights, but they've not been putting super complex problems in M80's way, no complex strategies, even the roams necessarily. M80 have been able to cut them off, but it just seems to be either taking individual gunfights or Cloud9 Beastcoast winning them when there might not be favored to. It gives the impression of an extremely dominant first half, which obviously it is, but one in which sort of left scratching the head. What was the game plan all along, whether there was one or not? The thing I'm glad about, I'm always glad about, is see some Scopos play. Spoit bringing the 2 robots onto the field, one down in the basement and one likely somewhere on the roam. Maybe Gavini will find her. As a very quick entry into Jacuzzi, now looking to hunt down one of the 2 players up top.
Well, big shock. There's no Scopos inside the shower. That's where we usually end up seeing her. Probably what Gavini was checking with those Ash rounds. Nothing to be had. A lot of Cloud9, or rather M80 bodies now, as they are on defense, over in the top of red. I'm trying to hold on to this. C9 BC are able to wrap in through something like stock or this solid position, just anywhere around that lounge space. This can become a very serious problem for C9, or rather for M80, as they try and fall back off of this. Cameraman, though, he's going to stand stalwart with the rest of his crew up top. And for Spoit, he honestly doesn't have to sweat it too much because, I mean, he can just swap bodies at the end of the day, Freaky Friday style.
He can just move back to site immediately. Oh, cameraman, maybe getting a little bit over-aggressive there. The plat wall is, I believe, still fully reinforced and electrified. Especially with half the round gone, you can't exactly just easily rotate back, but tries to take the fight and certainly regrets it, though. Does do a lot of damage to Gavin in turn. Can criticize a little bit, but that 5v4, now 4v4, has not really come with any further benefits. Well, I spoke just about a nanosecond too soon, because Cloud9 immediately fills the remaining space on the mid floor and shuts down every single roamer remaining. WTP called out. Good Scopos play, I imagine, would be a logical response there, Sam. But with Hyper and Kino the only two remaining, sure, Gavin and Hot and Cold might be low HP. Well, with the feed of one player spotted, Cloud9 Beastcoast will spend the remaining 40 seconds trying to decide their move.
Won't to sweat it too much. Still some solid drones and really anything readily available to them. They might already be ready to go, and it seems like they are. A call available, not as of now, to Spirits. They will end up popping this Goyo, and that's going to make things very low time based over on this far side. And
what?
Wow. Yes, indeed. I think M80 just spammed through, or rather specifically Kino just spammed through, I believe, Kool-Aid wall and killed both of those players rotating out of the church hallway. I'm not even lying. We're about to see it here in a minute because we're going to have the replay, but that my money is on him spamming Ashwall, Kool-Aid, whatever you guys call it at home. It's that first panel there when you come out of the bottom main stairs on the left-hand side. I guarantee you he spams that and gets both these kills. Let's watch here through these replays. At least gets those. Kino.
No, we don't see.
Man, I thought we had it implemented where we got to see everybody at home.
I think you're obviously correct. I mean, like, they were in moto, they're backing off, they die right as the two players are moving up through blue. I mean, that seems to make perfect sense to me. That was match point. Like, that was match point. Easy mode right there. Oh, we do have it.
Oh no, he just
wow,
swung.
he just swung main. He just swung bottom main. All right, well.
Yo, shout out Ferme, shout out the replay guy, shout out everybody over at production. We love you guys. Really appreciate that one. Now they reached into their bag for that to find that for us, Carter. But yeah, no, damn is right, my friend. Because honestly, I did not think he was getting at it a heads-up gunfight. That's when my brain immediately went to, oh, he spammed the wall and killed him through. There's no way, right? No. He took it straight to the face and he won, which is just absolutely insane. So very well done to him. There was no other way they were getting out of that. And C9 BC are going to be kicking themselves for the results of round 7.
Yeah, regulation win would have to be 7 rounds in a row, or 6 rounds in a row, excuse me, but comebacks can be built off of ridiculous moments like that, and a huge momentum booster for M80. Everyone getting excited after that, too. With how well that roam clear went, you can't predict that things will go that well every single time. Pretty eventful first round between the Cloud9 Beastcoast and M80 at the clubhouse side swap. To start here, trying their best to deal with this mute jammer. And I think the initial nade somehow missed, and they've tried their best this second go around to burn everything in their way, and they'll do so successfully, but C4 goes out, and there go 2 Selma charges.
Well, that's not a great wall, is it?
Damn, where did all the X-Kairos go? It's a minute 10 seconds in. Did we he probably just used it to open a plat wall and con single, I get. Okay, makes sense.
Well,
I was like, how the hell did he already use all 18?
He was handing those things out like candy, apparently.
It was.
So I got a couple of those things over there on the castle barricades that we saw, so they'll hope that they can somehow dispatch those mute jammers, but it's not looking like that's really an option as of right now. They're going to try and work their way up the main stairs. Diffuser gets one. It's traded out in kind. It's a 4 versus 4. Some Furnox gas will pour in, and Cameraman will get one for his pleasures as Kino and M80 will be taking out C9. My brain blends everything together there. But hey, C9 BC, a way back into this can be found? No, not as of right now. Gunner's going to get gunned down. It's all down to Hot and Cold as he'll barrel up his way to heaven, essentially, up the stairwell. Not really much to be found. And I mean, it really just comes back to what we saw implemented there by M80, just keeping things kind of locked up around the windows and forcing them to try and work their way up that main stairwell.
Okay, I was about to say, we'd better see tactical timeout after that, because we're getting downright goofy. You lose round 7, unfortunate 2v4, it happens. But then we get to that round. I cannot emphasize this enough. It is a minute 40 seconds remaining. We have less than half the round in. And Beast Coast decide to just hit it. They just decide to go for it. And, you know, that can work out. Upping the tempo can do great things. I respect it. Problem is, you try to work up main stairs. The main position you try to go to either like swing onto the player hallway to help your player jacuzzi or swing into Logi to help the guy pushing there if there is one. And nobody knew that there was just an open F not there. Gunnar was inside of the hallway. He could have shot it, but nobody knew. I get you want to up the tempo. I appreciate that. It's a viable strategy, but nobody did the proper homework during that. And I think Vivid realized we are clearly skipping steps if the 2v4 was not evidence enough of that.
Yeah, things are not going the way of C9BC, not in the slightest right now. And there's definitely some things to consider. I want to see what they can potentially do with a little bit of change of pace of themselves, just see if they can get a clean pick inside of this opener and build from there. M80 have had a lot to say throughout these last two defensive rounds, especially in that last one. The first one, C9BC starting things off strongly, but just did not have, you know, the ability to really execute in the way that they would want to onto that basement site, and they end up getting bodied by the last two remaining M80 members. Now, going into round 9, it's going to be a CCTV cash defense coming out from M80, and the Scopos is going to be back in the lineup.
That's what I care about. That's what I'm here for. That's why I get up every day. Just to see what teams will experiment with the Scopos, though, like I said before, it's kind of typically the same thing. One off-site, one on-site. Well, one on-site, that's where the cold bot is, and the live one is usually roaming around the building, in this case, in the basement. Alongside the Scopos, I'm sure other people have done this, but I literally thought of this the other day. I had not seen it. I was like, what if you had a Scopos in sight and then you put the live robot rafters? That way, if you get naded and everything, you can just go back. I feel very validated. I feel very, very validated with that. Now they got to win, or else I'll look really silly, but...
Hey, had to be said. Had to. For Diffuser, we'll see if he has anything to say about Logi. There's some drones in, nobody home, so shouldn't have to speak too much. Sometimes it's just better to be quiet. Diffuser will drop on in. And wow. Wow, oh wow. You know, sometimes... sometimes, like I said, it's better to not speak, but sometimes it's better to make your presence known, Carter. A wall spam from Diffuser, and Diffuser feeling as though he's sunned Spoit in this position. But this bandit battery will at least dispatch a piece of the C9BC onslaught that we saw starting to build up over on the construction side.
Yeah, you know, Beef Watch hasn't really been all that interesting. Like, Diffuser wasn't really all there until the very end of Border. Now Spoit's not really all there. But unfortunate. Could have had a bit more an eventful of a match between these two individual players. It has been a pretty slow clubhouse overall, though M80 starting to pick up the pace. Caraman able to cut down one, doing double duty, the Bandit charge and the MP7 now, able to put some shots into the armor for Cloud9 Beastcoast. Able to dodge the grenade too. MVP work on this Khan single wall, but all good things must come to an end eventually. So we'll see what he can build from here. One player out on the rappel will drop down soon after. Hyper's still alive in garage, by the way. Always something you have to worry about when you're pushing through Khan is this long line of sight that Hyper can hold. Especially if Gunner's not able to clear anything out further inside of the site itself. Cloud9 Beastcoast might have the man advantage. That could slip through their fingers quicker than you might believe.
Smoke out, bees in, an exchange of utility. And M80 doing their damnedest to try and hold C9BC at the gates. EMP out to try and assist with anything that is potentially in flight or it's another electronic in the area. Hyper's going to get a big frag. Gunner will respond in kind, though, and it's going to come down to the wire here. Who's got this case? It's actually going to be hot and cold this time around. He's going to try and switch over to the server side. He'll swing through, and on the worst timing possible, Hyper will find two. No rock out there for the tail end of that. Very happy with the results of that. And Spoit probably pretty happy with that as well, as he was the one that was randomly spammed by this man just earlier on in that round. But his life was not needed. It's not necessary for an M80 victory, as they were capable of shutting down the take from the construction side.
Both remaining M80 players just able to completely deal with any attacker hopping in through those windows. I mean, that's absurd. Unlucky. what else can you really do there? But as Hot and Cold walks in the window, and obviously Kino able to get that kill on Gunner walking at red stairs, Hyper given 2 1v1s. I think Cloud9 Beastcoast getting a little hectic. Maybe the comms aren't as clean. There's the ever tiniest gap between Hot and Cold rotating out of con and hopping through that window, and the player actually going to support him through the single panel. If that doesn't happen, we, to be fair, still have a 1v1. It's not a 1 round for Cloud9 Beastcoast, but it's not the 2v3 we saw from M80. 3 bomb sites in a row. They have won basement, gym, and now CCTV, with only getting the opening pick 1 single time in the three of those. Church wasn't exactly great last time, to be fair, so this is no easy win, but M80 are looking decent, and Cloud9 Beastcoast, even after the timeout, are still looking a bit sloppy.
Also, adjustments coming in here for them. Gonna have the Finka come in. That most definitely means that there's no AK-12 on that fuse, huh? Probably gonna be the shield working its way in from Spirits, and with that pistol in hand as of right now, telling us a lot of tales as to what could happen throughout the rest of this round. And the Spear as well. We don't see that often on Finka. She does have that dastardly LMG, but Fuser, feeling as though this change of pace might be solid for him. You have some EMPs and the likes of Gavini and some secondary hard breach too with Buck, but it's mostly going to be Habana more than likely to try and deal with these hatches. M80 do have a little bit of a roam game here, but they're going to hightail it downstairs at the first sign of trouble.
You can understand their concern when they lost not 1, not 2, but 3 bodies on that roam in round 7. Better your chances at victory by just rotating back early, especially when you still have that Cade, especially when you have 2 impact grenades held by Spoit to try and burn through these X-Kairos, though Hot and Cold clearly aware of that possibility as he only lays down 2 initially. I want to see where those fuse charges land, though. Will they be used on any of these hatches? They'll obviously be used on a ceiling at some point. You got 4 of them. Need to put them to good use somewhere. Could be nice just to hollow out right beneath the kitchen hatch, then drop down into the aftermath. But I think a lot of those more problematic positions, Sam, like Church and Main Hall, might escape the purview of the cluster charges.
And more than likely. I mean, there is a couple solid spots to put him over. Oh,
I like that I'm saying
position
this.
is just so crazy. How does Spirits get all the way down here and that nade get in there as well? There's just so many displacement tactics from C9 BC, and they tear 2 lives away from the defense.
I like that I say all that, like, they're not just bringing fuse for the shield. There's no point with the gadget. You bring the ballistic shield, a gun behind him, and of course the pistol himself. Cloud9 Beastcoast have completely hollowed out AKs. Citizen with that C4 might just find 2, might just equal the game right here if he can time this secondary utility just right. Hyper picks up 1, and there we go. The shield saves him, but it's a 3v3 as Beastcoast go in for the kill. Spirits finishes off Citizen. Hot and Cold puts the diffuser down, so it's 2-on-2 when it comes to guns. Hyper very low HP as Spoit ducks for cover inside of the default plant spot. Impact goes out as Hyper falls to the wayside, and the boy Wonder must now do the most to deny match point from the hands of Cloud9 Beastcoast. There's 1. Ballistic Shield can't do much there. Deagle shots wrap around, and 1 more, and you've got time. Oh, you have time. Full reinforcements as well. He'll try to style on him. Deagle in hand, Gavini creeps forward as Spoit sticks it. He turns around, sprays, takes the fight, and commits! Cuts him down. 3K for our boy. 5-5.
That might be one of the most insane 1v3s I've ever seen, Carter. Period. Fuse shield. Another man overseeing that. Great position for Gavini in blue. In every single decision that Spoit makes, it seems like it's just gospel. Let's see this again. Disgusting. What a shot here, first of all. And then the immediate decision. That's what gets me. He knows exactly what he must do. And then he gets Gavini in this perfect situation. He plays the case out to the absolute nth degree. Gavini creeps up to the door, and as soon as he hears him take that step, he gets off the case. He knows that he's now got him positioned in an area in which he has some influence. He has some semblance of where Gavini is. And that info check, just the icing on the cake there, man. Got to lean that into that moment as well. The fact that he used just that little split-second image into blue to see Gavini on the AC unit. Come on, Carter. Come on, man. You can't write it better. That's disgusting stuff out of Spoit there. Ties it up 5-5 and puts M80 into greener pastures. This is a moment where that could have been C9 BC on map point, trying to push us on to Nighthaven Labs, but instead now we're looking at a potential for M80 to be the first ones across the line, the first ones to map and match point.
4 rounds in a row now, and how many 2vx's? 2v4 in round 7? 2vx in round 9 on CCTV, and then in round 10 he Spoit 1v3. Diffuser got the hero play he was asking for. Spoit might only be 5-5, but that might be the most important 3 kills of the entire playoffs run, depending on what M80 are able to do from here, assuming they're able to close this out. The momentum is very, very much on their side, it feels at the moment. Again, like I said, 4 rounds in a row. And going back to Gym Bedroom, where Cloud9 Beastcoast, at least to my eyes, made a pretty questionable call built off lackluster intel. They've gone the opposite now. Instead, full clearing CCTV and cache, trying to use the Selma charges to pressure the cap can. C4 already ripped, anticipating somebody trying to move around the plat wall. But for my money, with no Deimos and no Dokkaebi, sure, it's all utility, but there's not a lot of the tools that I think M80 would be really worried about in this position.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It just doesn't really seem like C9 BC has the utility that they would really want to try and diminish this area from M80. That mute jammer is just causing so many problems for them right now. We're almost halfway through this round, and they really haven't found an answer to it just yet. Diffuser is just spamming through the floorboards, trying to find a way to get rid of this mute jammer. And there's potential influence building up here too. A frag grenade out, a lot of damage dealt towards him. Does it even get the mute jammer? Because it fell back into the floor. Yeah, I was a little worried there, but it does indeed get it. Gunner will get 1. There's no way they're going to keep risking this, right? Now I'm starting to worry. Now I'm starting to question what the hell's going to go on here. And I'm the one with X-ray vision. Diffuser's going to get cameraman. That's a 5v3, 5v2 in favor of C9 BC.
It is an absolute... It's just an absolute shit show in CCTV cache. I mean, Cloud9 Beastcoast might get a 5v2, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like, we're firebolting, we're nading, we're shooting holes through the floor, throwing everything just to get this advantage. But, to be fair, they've got it. They've got this 5 versus 2. It might have cost almost everything. But if they can hold on to this, surely they can close it out. Kino with the first one, Gavini with the second. But again, this advantage is too strong. You can drop a couple bodies and still come away the victors. Some intel inside of the site, but Kino walks right into Logi, spots one, transfers onto the other. No way. Not like this. Hard pings on the next one. Diffuser with the shotgun. Not 2 1v3s in a row! You're fucking kidding me, man! 6-5? 5 in a row? We're just doling them out like candy at this point. What is even the point of playing round 12?
Halloween's came early this year. Candyland for M80 across the board. Kino as well as Spoit showing up to play and having back-to-back highlight reel rounds to pull these away from C9 BC. I mean, this is unprecedented. This is something that we never see. It's a seldom thing. It's an oddity, honestly, even when 1-1VX happens in such a grandiose fashion. But to have two from the same squad as well, truly disgusting stuff. M80, it's like the stars have aligned and God is on their side. They can do no wrong. They can't. It's always green lights for them every single step of the way. But just to be real for a second as well, wow, Kino and Spoit, both of these players just so gifted in a moment like that to not only have the mechanics to pull something like that off, but also have that mindset. The fact that they're still playing out those positions like, hey, I just got to make a few right clicks and that's it. I can totally win this round. And they both get it done. Incredible.
I'm thinking.
Incredible.
Just thinking about Anthony Fantano reacting to Meet the Grams 2 times. How did you let it happen twice?
Sir, a second clutch has hit the server.
It has. Well, this is just one of those moments where you feel like you feel like it's gone. Like the magic is not there. I mean, M80.
Oldie but a goodie. I just like the camera angle. Sorry, I was just getting.
That's what I'm here for.
Exactly. Love that camera work. Our spectators always do such a good job with that. Love our observers. And is that gonna? Yeah, it is gonna get open. I got worried there for a split second, but no, I will end up getting breached. So C9 BC will at least have that going for them. But I mean, a lot of weight on your shoulders in a situation like this, huh, Carter?
Dude, like. The voices in their head right now have got to be going crazy. The self-doubt's starting to creep in. I mean, you know, they've been in positions like this before, but like 2 1v3s back-to-back, a 2v3, a 2v4 in round 7. M80 have only won 1 round on their terms, and it was round 8. Every other, to quote Diffuser, has been hero plays made off the back of somebody from M80. Well, you tempted fate, and I think he's coming to regret it. 1 round away, the major champions, Cloud9 Beastcoast, could find themselves in the LCQ in a moment's notice, Sam.
And C9 BC want the construction offense again. That does mean there is going to be a couple of things they have to worry about. Specifically, do you see Hyper right over there? That's the big one. Huge crossing guard there when it comes to this portion of the map, and anybody tries to get aggressive. Also, speaking of aggressive, I was going to say, I don't know why we're switching away from Spoit, because he wanted it so bad, and he's going to get it. Gavini will trade things out onto Cameraman, though, but Spoit, he gets 2! He's got all of construction to himself! He's going to hamstring the entire offense, and they're getting boxed out of construction right now actively by Kano Smokes. They've got it down to a 3 versus 3. They've never had something like this.
It's been quite rare. But look at all the utility gone. All of Kino Smoke's gone, as you mentioned, but the 2 C4s from M80. And I don't know how much time C9 Beastcoast have to go down below. I don't know if they have the manpower to get it done. Gavini needs to win this fight in Garage. He checks the corner first. Kino wins his. Hyper cuts him down. And that's all she wrote. Your major champions, your Manchester major champions, Cloud9 Beastcoast, find themselves down in the LCQ. A 2-0 loss to M80. Unbelievable.
Holy hell, boys. Holy hell. What a game out of M80. And the thing was, man, it wasn't clean. It wasn't kosher. It was a scrappy game that came down to some key highlight moments out of M80, but specifically 2 huge clutch moments out of Spoit as well as Kino. Let's roll the tape here, folks. A lot of hot action coming out of M80 versus C9 BC.
Capitalizing off of those mistakes expertly, and thank you. I mean, that was an insane day. I'm sure Gabe, Fox, Corbeck, they got a lot to say about this one.
Radio side, okay?
Yeah, I can call.
Cash side.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
You hold that, Willie.
Can they do me? No.
In radio?
Radio dead, radio dead. Radio. Let's go!
Wow. Bro, the most insane game I've ever seen in my entire fucking life, dude. Wait, I'll be right back.
The most insane game he's ever seen in his entire effing life right there was, I think, the quote to sum that up. M80 toppling the major champions in a downright dirty 2-0.
I gotta know, who whispered, hold that, Willie?
yeah, I think that might have been Citizen. I don't know, but I mean that's the best way to put it. That was an insane game. I mean, we all thought that we were going to be going to a third map, and then C9 BC not even to take anything away from them. They were starting off really well in their matchup, but oh my God, M80 on defense. I mean, round after round of clutch after clutch. I mean, I think it was just written in the stars that M80 was going to bring it back and win it through, because a lot of those rounds seemed unwinnable. But for them to bring it back, I believe there was a Spoit clutch, a Kino clutch, a Hyper clutch, just all one after the other. Wow, I mean, just way to stay in it mentally. And I mean, Diffuser really must have just unfortunately cursed his team, because the big plays
is what
won them the game.
What did I say?
My God.
Hero plays work. I said it.
And again, it doesn't matter when it happens, how it happens, it gets done. And honestly, in a game like this where there's so much on the line and the stakes are high, especially in those last few rounds, that's when the clutches happen. That is such a just hit to the mental where you should be winning these games. And I said it, Clubhouse is a game of mistakes, and a team that can capitalize off of it was clearly M80 today, given their performance. And I mean, it's a tough one for C9 Beastcoast. You know, we've been giving them praise. They're their major champions. They're defending champions. Now they have to go through an LCQ run where only one team throughout that bracket can make Montreal.
Yeah, and it really was a situation that both teams deserve to be there. I mean, obviously, you look at the stats, and
Look at that.
just like map 1, I mean, the stats were very close on both ends. If you would have looked at it on paper, it would have looked like there wasn't just one clear favorite, but I mean, you can see it. It was a very dominant defensive-sided Clubhouse. Obviously, C9BC was running away with it, and then once the side swapped, I mean, it shows you how powerful one side can be if you are just playing on top of it.
And it shows you how detrimental 2 rounds can be if you can't close it out, where if they easily just closed either of those rounds out, they would have won 7-5.
Yeah, there could be a little bit of maybe overconfidence that happened on the side of C9BC today. I mean, we saw it in their interview. It didn't seem like there was much respect being given towards M80. M80 did have a rough stage, but it wasn't like they were just down and out. You know, they were keeping every game very close, and obviously they really showed M80's versatility today. I mean, just not letting that slow start to map 2 hold them down. I mean, wow. I mean, those rounds were phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and we have the rounds again that we've shown, you know, in the beginning of this, and then we just got to show again. I mean, this should never be a scenario, and especially for a team like C9 Beastcoast, to allow this to happen. No trade potential, no situation for anyone to be in this position. If anything, leave hot and cold here. Go play with the shield in the back. Do something else. And then you let Spoy. You were even saying, like, he's not going to do this with the Deagle, and then he ends up doing it exactly with the Deagle the second you say that.
Yeah, I mean, he should have realistically reloaded in a situation like that. I mean, he was going for the style points, and then Kino in this 1v4, I mean, just with the SMG11, such limited magazine capacity, and just hit all the shots, brought it to a 1v1, and I mean, he has the information. I mean, that was a phenomenal clip. And then I don't even think we saw the one from Hyper where they were in a 2v5, and he wall banged 3 people through the blue wall. I mean, it really was a round written in the stars for M80, and individually, every player showed up big, and those big individual plays is what got them the win.
I think it was somewhat poetic that it was Diffuser on the receiving end of that last shotgun blast. It was Kino who delivered it, and we got Kino on the line with us here, so let's bring him along. I mean, man, I got to congratulate you. I think you shocked us all, a lot of people out there, to be honest. So a big W for you guys. I mean, how does it feel to throw the reigning major champions down into the LCQ?
Feels good. Always feels good to beat those guys. You know, we had something to prove in this game. We were the underdog, so it feels nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it feels really good. I mean, I'm sure what felt even better was that 1v4 clutch of you in Logi. I mean, just walk us through what you were kind of thinking in that moment when you and all of your teammates, when you guys were down in potentially unwinnable situations. How did all of you guys just win out? Like, what are you thinking in that process?
I feel like that just, you know, it's just FPS. Like, we play this game for a living. We all grind ranked every day, and it's just the instincts. Like, you just can't like teach something like that. You know, you develop that with time. The decision making in like a 1v4 or like a 2v5, for example, with me and Paul in that gym round, it's just stuff that like you just get it with time. Yeah. And you know, the decision making to go for the Logi guy, the 2 of them, because they were blind with the AFNAT. It's just, you know, it's just stuff like that. It's just like the small details, but like, I don't know, there's a lot of pressure as well.
Well, I mean, I think you got to give yourself a little, you know, boost yourself up there. I mean, you made every single engagement a 1v1. You didn't really allow them an opportunity to even potentially trade that situation or take a 2v1 engagement. So, I mean, you got to give yourself a little prop there. But I also want to talk about when you guys went down in the man deficit, obviously already losing the first map, what was kind of the turning point for you guys to be like, okay, we're bringing this back. This is going to be it. We're closing it out.
We won 3 clubs this stage. All 3 times we played Clubhouse, we won. People were calling us the club win trick team, you know, the team that could only play. We lost both of our Night Havens, both of our banks, and one of our clubs. So like, we knew we were down 5-1, but we knew that we had it in us.
Yeah,
we had it. Just defense as well, like, you know.
I'm glad you brought up the maps, because I'm really happy that you guys did not go to a big map. Do you think, I've been saying on the desk, I don't know if you've been watching it, but it's all been about that the big maps don't play to your guys' play styles. There was no big maps played today. Do you feel like that is a true statement, that you guys do better on the smaller maps, or what do you think it is?
To an extent, yes. But you could also go back to today's game on a club. our attacks, even though it's a small map, our attacks were very iffy. You know, on the basement, their basement defenses, we couldn't clear the roam. You know, so I don't think it's just the big maps. I think it's a little deeper than that. But well.
All right, all that matters is you got the win and you find yourself in semis tomorrow and possibly punching your ticket tomorrow to Montreal. I think that's all that really matters at the end of the day.
You know, speaking of tomorrow, obviously you've got Dark Zero on the line, a team that has been on an absolute tear. You guys gonna make lightning strike twice tomorrow?
That's the plan. No, I already told Bamba. I told him I would see him in semis, and here I am.
You did. You did. Predicting the future right there, and I love the confidence. Congratulations, my boy, and get some rest. They're going to need you back on fire tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Oozing confidence, as you would expect, coming off of a victory like that. You'd love to see it. I mean, if I was Dark Zero, I'd be a little worried.
You know, you say that, but you just see how dominant Dark Zero have been. And again, this is another team that has been just progressively getting better and better, and especially on their attacking side, where in the beginning, that's where we talked about Dark Zero not looking so great, but towards the end of this stage and then going into playoffs, they've been looking very strong on all four fronts of that end. So I don't think Dark Zero's worried. I think, you know, they got the prep, they got an idea of what to expect, and now it is best of three. So I do believe M80 are more than confident going into that game, though, based off today's performance.
Yeah, and I think you obviously are happy with a win here for M80, but you want it to be a lot cleaner. You don't want to be playing from the deficit of being down 1-5 ever, realistically.
No.
And even though they won a lot of rounds off of big individual plays, the only reason they were able to make those plays is because the opportunities was given to them by C9 BC. Now, if Dark Zero doesn't give them those opportunities, I mean, you can just shut out 1vx's if you just play it a little bit better, right? There's no specific way to play around, but if you just play a little bit better off of your trades, play together as a team, you can limit those. So in the same regard that amazing players make amazing plays, they have to be given to that opportunity. And Dark Zero has not given any single team many opportunities since that first loss. But M80 obviously showed that they have the resilience today to keep in it. And so, yeah, really great game. Excited to look forward towards.
I mean, amazing teams make amazing plays as well, right? And, you know, the bracket, I think it didn't quite shape up the way we thought it was going to, mostly because of that kind of upset that we just had. Looking ahead to the semifinal matches, I mean, this is a veritable feast of Siege right here. I am fascinated to see how these work out.
Yeah. If I was to choose like the game that I'm looking forward to the most, honestly, I would probably say the Space Station Sonics. I think that game is going to be a really good game of just basic fundamentals of being able to pivot around the map, pivot positions, change a take, whatever that's going to look like. Just a lot of adapting. So for me, that is the game that sticks out the absolute most to me going into tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, both great games, but SSG, SQ, I feel like we want to see a definite answer from one of these two teams going into Montreal. So SSG has looked very consistent, but there's been some hiccups. Sonics has looked very consistent, but there's been some hiccups as of recently. In that game against Wildcard, didn't seem as dominant as we would have all liked to see from Sonics. So obviously with that matchup, I am looking towards it as whoever is the winner of that is making a statement going towards Montreal, whereas M80 Dark Zero, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's a game that is still going to be great, but obviously it's Dark Zero's game to lose.
Absolutely.
You know, just a kind of flash predictions. What are we thinking for our results here tomorrow? Where are we going on that first game, at least?
I think based off the performance of seeing Sonics first wildcard, this isn't to take anything away from wildcard, just again, how Sonics have been playing, I think Space Station do end up taking that game.
Okay.
And then going into the second game, I think Dark Zero continues their reign of dominance and pushing them all the way through.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, I think SSG, based off of the game that we saw today, I think SSG is definitely the favorites for me for tomorrow. M80 Dark Zero, I don't know. I mean, there's still some part of me that feels like there has to be a downside to Dark Zero coming, right? There has to be a cliff that's nearing towards because they've been doing so well. But maybe there isn't. And, I mean, but if there is, it would be M80 after today.
It makes me feel like they're doing the similar C9 Beastcoast run where, you know, now they're going on a hot streak. They're looking the best that we've ever seen them, and I don't really see that tapering out anytime soon. But again, you know, like you said, it could change. I don't see that. I do see Dark Zero persevering and keeping their consistency of just constantly looking as good as possible and punching their ticket for Montreal.
Well, when the top two teams come off the ropes tomorrow at 6 p.m. EST, you are not going to want to miss it if you're a Siege fan. Obviously, our first day in the books here. We want to thank you so much for joining us. A big thank you, of course, to Link, Stokes, Laxing, Fox, our production crew, and from all of us here in the Philly studio. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.
killer of a game.
They've got to clear out that position. That one through the screen as Spirit pops the head.
Managing to close it out. Spirits must know that they're there. Manages to find the kill. 2v1 Frida is low health though.
Oh, the take from Spirits in the 1 versus 1, holding onto the back of Spirits. They've traded places for Frida.